Welcome back, Patriots, to another special episode of the Bald Brad Show, where we will be covering today's White House press briefing live. We are just waiting for cringe Jean-Pierre to show up to the podium. And as all of you are already writing in the live chat, she is going to be fashionably late. She's the one that dictates the time, the place for these press briefings, and she is always late. It is really a remarkable thing on how late this lady always is to her own meetings. Like, it's basically what it is, right? It's a meeting. It's a meeting that you gather a bunch of people that cater their time all around you, and you are late consistently. So we'll see. She has about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to get her tushy on that podium, and we all know she's going to be late. Maybe the printer's jammed. The printer's jammed to try to get all those answers that are allegedly in that binder of hers in that binder. So we'll say hello to some of the Patriots. We got Danielle Slater. It's good to see you. Is it Caro or Caro? I apologize for mispronouncing. We got Kelly in here. Night Owl already has the popcorn. Sir, you made me laugh before the live stream even started. Neil, a long-time Patriot here at the Bald Brad Show and supporter. Him and his wife. Always has our six. Greatly appreciate you, brother. Karen, Cat Mom, good to see you. Patrick, Jeff, Tina. Everybody's here. Going to hang out with Patriot on YouTube. Love it, man. Freaking love it. It is our community. We are awesome. We got people over at Rumble as well. Golden Girl's always here. Dual Helix, hello. My Rumble chat works again. Couldn't be more than happy to have you with us, my friend. We are a growing conservative channel. It is grassroots. We are always by ourselves. Sometimes you guys will hear me say, well, we are doing that. Would love for you if you could join us. The reason why I say those types of things is because we're a community of Patriots. Just as much as I'm the one behind the scenes by myself doing this, I look at all of you along here with us, taking the movement forward, giving your hard-earned money as memberships or, heck, on locals, whatever it may be. You guys are really here supporting the movement just as much as I am. So I am greatly appreciative to all of you in the live chat. Let me know if you guys have any questions about anything. Always feel free to throw stuff in there. If you want to throw a donation, that would be greatly helpful as well. Don't feel like you have to. We are in Bidenomics, folks, so it's totally understandable. And speaking about that, while we're waiting, we got some news regarding just the news. So you got Joe Biden, his own campaign workers. This is so cringy. I saw this earlier. This came out like 30 minutes ago. His own campaign volunteers reacted when they heard Crooked Joe was going to stop by. You guys just listen to what this dude said. He's probably going to be let go after this.
Church visit, the president made his way to a field campaign office in Manayunk, where volunteers were surprised to find out he was visiting.
Oh, is he coming here? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's cool. That's dope. I hope he's awake for it.
Solomon Troop, who has canvassed for Biden, was one of a few hundred who heard Biden speak at the field office.
Dude, that is not what you want from a volunteer, to be on freaking the news in Philadelphia. And you're saying, I hope he's awake for it. Oh, my Lordy. And those are the people volunteering for Joe. I mean, it is just nothing but terrible news coming out for this administration. And that's why we're covering the White House press briefing live, folks. We're just waiting for Karine, whatever you want to call her, Sideshow Bob, to get up there and do her job, which we know it's not going to happen. She's going to be proposed a lot of questions, and we're not going to get any answers. But hell, folks, we will still have fun together as a community. Nonetheless, we're all suffering together by listening to this $180,000 plus DEI hire give a bunch of non-answers. We are just, again, waiting. We are here, folks. We are waiting for her patiently just as much as everybody else is in that room. Hundreds of people, thousands around the country waiting for her to show up late. So that was Joe Biden's voters and volunteers reacting to him showing up, and hopefully he's awake. You also have Jill Biden, the doctor, allegedly. You deserve a commander-in-chief who serves with integrity, wisdom, and character. This is her filling that time slot so Joe Biden doesn't have to speak as long.
You deserve a commander-in-chief who serves with integrity and wisdom and character. And that's my husband, Joe Biden.
Oh, wisdom, integrity, and character, none of which we get from Joe Biden, but she's going to gaslight everybody. Oh, what wisdom? maybe 40 years ago, Jill, you're just as gone as your husband is. And maybe that's the problem, is she thinks that he's up for the job. She thinks he has integrity. She thinks he has wisdom and character. If you get knocked down, you get back up. Like, Jill, just leave the guy alone. You know what I mean? Like, you're running him in the ground. Just let him ride off in the sunset. You know what I mean? Give him a nice cigar and a glass of whiskey on the porch off in the middle of America and leave the guy be, man. You're just really, really running the guy down. So Bidenomics is really in action, folks. You're seeing it just take place everywhere, where 92% of Ohio restaurants report higher food costs this year amid Biden's never-ending inflation crisis, as 70% say they plan to increase their prices again just after that.
Of Ohio restaurants plan to increase their prices. So the association, representing about 25,000 restaurants in Ohio, has been conducting business impact polls since 2020 to collect data on the state of the industry. And the most recent poll finds that 92% of businesses reported food costs were higher during the first quarter of 2024 compared to the first quarter of 2023.
It's only going to get worse under Joey, man. But Democrats don't care, you guys. You got to understand, they don't care. They're going to vote for this guy in the millions. He's allegedly the most popular president in American history. They're going to line up for this guy. They couldn't be more stoked than to put their hair up in pigtails and braids in different colors and show up to the polls for this guy in the millions. Amidst record illegal immigration, they're taking your Social Security. You saw Marco Rubio during our live show this morning talk about that. They're sitting there receiving taxpayer dollars left and right. You're paying for their hotel fees. You're paying for their legal services. You're paying for their food, their clothing, their shelter, their water, electricity, their education, their health care, their rental assistance. You are getting shafted under this administration, the Democrat Party, and it's going to happen for another 4 years if they get elected, and let's pray they don't. But it's razor-thin margins, you guys. Razor-thin margins. I keep saying this. We're not out of the woods by any means here. Donald Trump could still easily lose this election. And as I mentioned, the next debate, I believe, is September through ABC News. We don't know who the moderators are yet. But Donald Trump has to have a perfect night. Joe Biden just needs to show up and not drool or fall asleep, and he wins. That's how low the bar is set. And quite frankly, maybe that's where they want the bar at, because this guy, again, just needs to show up and his poll ratings are going to go up. It was just a one-off. It was an episode. The president just had one bad night, but he's back. When you get knocked down, you get back up, is what he said, and we're behind him. Well, that and a bunch of illegal immigrants are voting too, folks. I was checking out the California voter registration, and maybe I should pull it up. You know what? Let's go through this together, because we were told this isn't real. Register to vote, California. Why don't we do this together? We're going to fill out the voter registration form. We got it right here. Now, there's some interesting things. I was looking at this today. You go to register to vote now, right? Now, they give you all these things. It really doesn't matter which one you click on. A U.S. citizen and a resident of California. Cool. I'm an illegal immigrant. I'm going to vote for, I'm going to select that one, right? Oh, cool. I'm a U.S. citizen and a resident of California. Cool. I'm over 18. That's awesome. You fill out all your information here, right? Date of birth, yada, yada, yada. But come down here. Come down here. What does that say, folks? Identification with a star. But listen to the language here. New voters may have to show a form of identification or proof of residency for their first time to vote. It's not that hard to have your name listed for a piece of paperwork. Maybe it's you're paying rent or something. Maybe you're doing something with a landlord, or you just need to show proof of residency. You guys, this is what we're dealing with. By the way, do you see what you can click on here? I do not have a California driver's license or a California identification card. I do not have a social security number. Oh, no problem. We'll just click those off and you're registered to vote. Cool. No big deal. No big deal. Remember, this isn't happening, you guys. This isn't happening. The reason why I bring this up is because the Democrats are going up against the Republican Party for the SAVE Act. And the SAVE Act is all about showing identification, proof that you are, in fact, a citizen of this country, of which you hold the right to vote. But if you don't have that proof, then you can't get the vote. Well, Democrats don't want that to happen. Why? Because they allowed over 10 million voters to enter in through the southern border. And who are all those people going to vote for? The Democrat Party. And it is happening. They are registered to vote. We posted, check this out. That's why you want to follow me on Twitter, you guys. I don't just say the do, but we got something here for you where a business owner has a legal immigrant come to him for a job. He says the illegal immigrant has a social security card and driver's license with work ID in 4 months after entering the United States. Here we go while we wait for cringe Jean-Pierre to show up.
I ran into somebody that I haven't seen in a while. I haven't seen this guy for months. He's been here for about 5 months in the United States, 6 months, something like that. And he says, hey, I'm looking for work. And I said, well, I can't hire you, man. I'm not, I got to hire like legitimate people or whatever. And he was like, no, I'm legitimate now. And he's broken English, kind of bits and pieces together, and he pulls his ID and stuff out of his pocket, and he says, I got social security card now, and I got worker's ID and permit for working, everything all legit, stamp, city stamping, specialized social security envelope. And I said, let's go inside real quick. I need a translator. And a couple of my guys, they speak Spanish, and I'm talking to them, and I says, so where are we at with time frame wise? How long did it take you to get your social security card and your worker's permit? He said maybe 3.5, 4 months, finished in my hand. This dude got his freaking work permit and social security card, came here illegally, got documented, got on the buses from Texas to Chicago, got in process here in Chicago, found an apartment building within the first week, an efficiency apartment, moved into the apartment building, and then has been working cash jobs under the table for the last 4 months until recently got his worker's permit. And now he's working for a roofing company, but they're laid off right now.
Weird. Hey, everything Donald Trump says about them taking your jobs, it ain't real, you guys. It's a bunch of hocus pocus. Again, if you don't follow us over on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter, head over there. There's my Twitter, also known as XBaldBrad1776. As you can see, we are live over there. We are just waiting for cringe Jean-Pierre to show up for her own White House press briefing, of which she is now 10 minutes late for. Typical, but don't worry, folks. She takes priority over all of us. She's more important than the rest of us little peasants, you know. Us little peasants Americans, aren't we? According to cringe Jean-Pierre and the Biden administration. So we'll make sure that we go live with them the second that they decide to step on that podium. We are still waiting, but we'll still bring you the news, folks. Remember, none of this is happening, you guys. It's all cringe fakes, deep fakes, cheap fakes, deep fakes. It's anything and everything out there, according to the Biden administration, but none of this is happening. Now, housing prices are through the roof. Insurance rates are through the roof. You know, insurance, one of the reasons why rates could go up is whether it's supply, demand. I mean, you could say whatever you want about that, but also it could have to do with insurance fraud. Are these illegal immigrants filing claims that are costing you more money? How about the medical field? When you have so many people coming in that are tapping from the system, guess what happens to your premiums and deductibles, however you want to work for it? However you want to work it out, those all go up. Now, specifically with houses, when you have, 10 million plus, we'll say a cool 15 million people coming in, they want to buy houses around the country, or heck, they just want to get a place to rent. What does that happen? What happens to the demand when there's not enough supply? Demand for it, what? Oh, it goes up, which guess what happens to your rent? Your rent goes up. To think, yes, outside of the whole idea of like these people are committing crimes, these people are doing this or that, one thing they're doing is having an effect on the economy. And by the way, not just our economy. These people are causing inflation in other countries. The reason why is because they're coming here and working. This is something we reported on about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, where they're sending their money back, and they're sending so much money back to their home country for their families that it's causing the cost of living and everything else in their area to go up. That goes down the housing, the cost of goods and services. So it's having a global effect. There's so many people here illegally that now we're having a global effect. And we're getting reamed. I mean, the video of Marco Rubio talking about how you could be sitting here getting $600, $800, $900,000 for Social Security. Some dude comes 3 months in, is getting $1,500. We've always talked about Chicago in terms of benefits and everything. are getting $84,000 per illegal immigrant. Folks, there's a lot of Americans that don't even make $84,000 a year. And these people come to the country and they take. How much are they really giving? Well, they're giving their blood, sweat, and tears for the jobs that white people don't want. There's a ton of white people that do the same jobs as all the other people that are pouring across the border. All these things are taking place, folks. And here's the one thing, too. When you don't vet people that actually want to assimilate to your creed and values in your country, what happens to your social fabric is it tears. And when that social fabric tears, it's very hard to mend that tear to the point that sometimes it is not mendable. And we are getting to that stage in this country and all around the globe where people will immigrate to certain countries, and it's not about assimilating to their values. Look at France. Look at what's going on in the UK. Look at what's going on all around Europe. Look what's going on in the United States, where these people want to institute their values. They want to institute their religion. They want to institute whatever it is that they're bringing over here, their culture, whether it's the good or the bad. They want to sit there and make sure that they demand from you what they want to see in your country, of which they came here to live and to have a better life. It's really a remarkable thing that you see in real time, the changing of our culture, the changing of our creed, the changing of our values that we're seeing in this country. There's a reason why crime is going up. There's a reason why there's all these movements of like these pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas movements out there, burning the American flag on 4th of July that we just saw most recently. There's a reason why these students are protesting on college campuses for these terrorist organizations. There's a reason why all this is happening, because these are all people that are on visas, work visas, student visas, or here just straight up illegally, receiving grant money or scholarship money, whatever it is. They're receiving the money to be here, going to these prestigious institutions, these Ivy Leagues, and all of a sudden they're ranting and raving about this or that, and not sitting there ranting and raving about your free speech, your Second Amendment rights, all these other things. They actually want to remove those very things. What you're seeing right now is an infiltration into the United States present time by a bunch of people that want to assimilate versus those that don't want to assimilate. And that was the whole purpose of having an immigration status quo or policy or framework that has a slow-moving influx of immigrants coming in legally to where you can vet these people. Are they the best that are coming in? Donald Trump is correct. Some of these people coming in are from prisons. There are terrorists that are here that our intelligence community knows about. We heard the CIA talk about it themselves. There's people from Benghazi. There's people that are terrorists that have actually murdered and are supposed to be on trial from their own country here in the United States. We got a lot of problems, you guys, and it's a lot bigger than you think. If you think that October surprise might be a terrorist attack, you could very well be right, and God forbid something like that takes place. Again, if you're with us right now, we are just waiting for Karine Jean-Pierre to take the podium. I know, you guys, we do this every single time, do we not? We wait for her to go live. Normally, during the regular day, we don't go live. We're just merely waiting. But I don't know where she's at. Maybe the printer's broken is what we said. Maybe she couldn't find her binder and she's freaking out. Maybe she left it at home and somebody had to go pick it up for her. Night Owl says France has fallen. Yes, it has, sir. Yes, it has. What you're seeing, what I highly recommend if you have time, is to check out Glenn Beck's book. He talks about the Great Reset. I would highly recommend you check it out. He has a couple books on it. He talks about ESG scores, social environmental governance score. And it's a really remarkable thing that you're seeing through the Great Reset. All these leftist progressive politicians to people rising up through our infrastructure, through our government system as politicians, whatever you want to say, corporations, and they're enacting these policies for this score that basically it's hounded upon all of you, like, hey, let's all have electric vehicles by 2035, which isn't even reasonable. Something we talked about 2 years ago was even the miners that need to mine these metals like cobalt that goes into vehicles, or heck, let's look at lithium, is they said that the demand that these politicians would need in order to meet the policies that they want is not actually even feasible. What they're saying is it's not possible. There's not enough mining in the globe to meet the demand that they're even trying to set for these companies, which is mind-blowing. So they're trying to force all these things out. They're trying to enact these policies. And if you don't do so, there's ramifications for it. And so I highly recommend you check out ESG Scores by Glenn Beck. A lot of people that buy Glenn Beck's book buy my book as a package together, which is kind of funny. So I could see that on Amazon, where a lot of people, if you look up Trojan Horse, how the left is destroying America on Amazon, we have a people will buy our books hand in hand, which I find pretty fascinating. Let me see if I can pull it up for you, because I do find it interesting. Trojan Horse book. Here we are. You gotta love when you type in Trojan Horse. Usually mine's the first one to come up. And this is what I want to show you guys right here. See that Glenn Beck's book, Dark Future? That's his most recent one, but frequently bought together right there. We're hand in hand with the Blaze, baby. Customers who bought this item also bought. So you can see what people are buying in conjunction with my book, which is kind of nice. I hope you guys are liking the book. A lot of you are saying that you are thoroughly enjoying it, that you're learning a lot of new things that kind of aren't spoken about in other books, which is kind of cool. Don't get in trouble, Stacy. So what's Stacy right up here? I'm at work watching this. Oh, I gotta love it. Thank you, Stacy. I've always been curious, like, where people watch the show or how they watch it. Like, I would imagine, like, some people have headphones in at work. You know, some people maybe have it on their phone. Somebody said, I ordered your book and it arrives today. Woo, woo. Love that, Danielle. Hey, if you guys buy the book off Amazon, can you leave me a 5-star review? It really does help. And so kind of how Amazon works is the more reviews you have, the more searches that go on for the book, it pushes your book up in the ranks. And so what I mean by that, if you actually scroll down, you can see it where we're at right here. So right now for the paperback, I believe we're ranked 703 in political commentary and opinion books. So when people leave a rating down here at the bottom, that will actually push that number up. And so we can actually climb relatively quickly to be in the top 100 potentially. If we all go there and leave a 5-star review, which would be great for us. It's my first book I've ever written, and I hope to write another one. Trying to kind of refine what to write about, but for some reason my heartstrings have really been pulling me to write something about education, because as many of you may or may not be aware, I was a public accountant for years, and then I switched careers to go into the career of teaching, which I absolutely love, but there had been a lot of things that that I've witnessed as a teacher that pretty mind-blowing, and I'd love to share those experiences and what I've seen as an educator, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So something that's been pulling on me to write about, but we'll see. I am retired and I watch on my TV. Nice, Z. Well, welcome and happy retirement. Love that. Always at work. Yeah, normally I'm at work, but like I said, it's summer. So that's why we're going live today. I work like 3 jobs. YouTube, one of them, teaching, and then I'm also a professional ice hockey referee, if that's what you want to call it. I put that in air quotes. Let's see. We are MAGA. Make America Great Again. Absolutely love that. What's May? I have no idea, Willie. No idea. Her lateness is arrogant. Yeah. It's just another thing to make us not like her. Is that a remarkable thing? I actually started streaming later because I knew that she would be late. And so we're just here waiting. Just literally here waiting. And so is about, I mean, if you look at it, there's almost 2,400 people waiting in the live stream itself on her. But don't worry, she's more important than the rest of us. She is speaking with the president before. Yeah, I wish she was speaking. You know, there was a thing, we covered this, where her and John Kirby are like butting heads behind closed doors. And one of them was, one of the many things they were fighting about was not just the time spent on the podium, having to share the podium together during these White House press briefings because Jean-Pierre wanted all the spotlight, but it was also the fact that she wasn't able to get FaceTime with the president while John Kirby was. And so basically that's saying, hey, you know what? I don't even talk to the president. And so everything that I'm giving you is a bunch of BS because I don't actually know what the guy thinks. Big Weave over here, a proud supporter of the Bald Brad Show. Greatly appreciate you, sir. A Parkinson doctor has 10 times went to the White House since 2022, they saw from the logs. Big Weave, we covered that this morning, and you're absolutely correct, good sir. What was that dude doing there? And that's why Comer wants to sit there and bring forth Biden's doctor to figure out what's going on. Why was there a neurologist there? Why was there a guy looking at Parkinson's? And are you cooking the books? Because nowhere in the books does it say that he met with Joe Biden. But if he's not meeting with Joe Biden, he's making all these visits. Who is he meeting? Is he meeting Jill? Does Jill have Parkinson's? Who has Parkinson's in the White House? Whose cocaine was at the White House? That's what I want to know. A lot of people think it's Hunter's. A lot of people think it's maybe Joey's. Write a book on what we should teach and how to teach it in public school. You know, I don't want to go down a big rant here, but we don't teach civics anymore. Government is basically kind of an elective. There's a lot of things that I think if you guys were to step back in the classroom, you would be shocked with what you see. And what I mean by it is this. Between me graduating high school, going to college for my degree in accounting, becoming an accountant, and then going back into a high school for the first time after 10 years, black and white. And I tell this even to my closest friends, I don't care who you are. If you were to walk into a classroom nowadays in high school, this is how I would kind of relay it so you can visualize it. College is the new high school. High school is the new middle school. Middle school is the new elementary school. And elementary school is like K through 5. So that's how I would visualize it if I were you. And I'll even go a step further. When I went back into my first high school classroom, I'm not exaggerating when I say that there was, like those turkeys that your kids draw in elementary school with the hand, on the holidays during Thanksgiving. Yeah, they'll have those in high school classrooms now, like senior level stuff. It's pretty remarkable. Like finger paintings. It's not to the level you guys think anymore. And so this is the kind of stuff I want to expose in the book if we do, or I should say, I always say we do, but if I end up writing about it, stuff I'd expose. But the problem is putting it in a way where it doesn't seem like it's coming across as complaining. You'll be like, well, you're just bashing on kids. You're just bashing on the individual. Why is it not the administration's fault? Why isn't it the teacher's fault? It's everybody's fault at the end of the day. But if you really take things down to conservatism, which I am is a conservative, everything does come back down to the individual. If you don't value your education, if you don't value something, then you're not going to take the time that's invested in it because you don't find value in it. So, like, for example, you guys spend time here on the show, right? You're hanging out with me. We're waiting for cringe Jean-Pierre to show up. There's, well over 100 people watching the Bald Brad Show right now. But you are sacrificing some time to do something else to spend it here on the show. And so you would imagine that you find some sort of value in that, whether that value comes through the news that I'm sharing or my opinion or hanging out with the Patriots. Like, that value could be dispersed in different ways, but you can carry that through to everything. If the individual doesn't care about something, then they're not going to do well in the very thing that they care about or don't care about or lack thereof. So I think that came across as pretty clear, but I think that's a great theme for a book, Brad. Oh, thanks, Kelly. We'll see. I've been really thinking about it. I did start writing something else about the Biden administration, about if it was put into a book, probably about 40, 50 pages written so far, but I don't think I'm going to go through with that. I don't know. We'll see. Public school has major problems in California. My kid is homeschooled. I would recommend either putting your kid in private school or homeschool for sure. For sure. Now, again, a lot of people will put the blame on teachers, and there are bad teachers out there. But this is what I always tell some students that try to come for advice about, oh, this teacher's bad, this teacher's not great. It's going to prepare you for college. A lot of college professors are terrible. And there's only 2 routes you can go. You could say, whoa, me, poor me, my teacher sucks, wah, 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 and I'm just going to take the F or whatever. Well, if the teacher's bad, they don't care. They got their education. They're still going to go home and get a paycheck at the end of the day. In public school, they're probably tenured. So the only other route you can go to succeed is use the vast internet that you have to teach yourself the material that your teacher allegedly won't teach you. And by the way, most teachers obviously teach in the classroom. That's ludicrous that somebody's sitting there for an hour and a half, 45 minutes or whatever, not teaching. So you just have to teach yourself at the end of the day, and it will prepare you not to rely on other people. Now, is that the answer we want to hear? Obviously not. But there's only 2 routes. You can either complain about it or you can freaking figure it out and learn it. And the idea that you can't learn something today and you have to rely on your teacher is insane to me. Folks, it's not like when we all grew up. Like, I grew up and the internet was still there, but it wasn't even like in elementary school, there was no internet for us. Like, there was no computer labs and stuff. In middle school, that's when they kind of started putting in computer labs. But this whole idea that you can use AI to answer any question you want. The amount of lecture videos online that will teach you how to do something is mind-blowing. And so this excuse of, well, my kid just couldn't figure it out or we couldn't understand it. It's like, dude, there's thousands of videos online that will show you how to do anything. It just comes down to you don't value it. You didn't want to take the time to do it. You'd rather spend your time on TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube, Instagram, doing all this other shit than you would actually valuing your education. And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to value. I know people don't want to hear that. And some of us were probably bad students. That doesn't mean like you're a bad student, like you're behavioral wise bad, but maybe your grades just weren't that great. And going, well, I'm not a good test taker, all these things. Look, I said the same excuse too. I'm not a good test taker. You want to know the answer? I just didn't study and I didn't know the shit. And it was an excuse for me to put the blame on somebody else rather than myself. Teach how to think plus find answers on your own. Correct. But Karen, I'm telling you, it's you got to make some teacher friends. They will share some stories. I've had students in the past, seniors. This goes many, 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 many years. This is like 2018. I had people, seniors that couldn't draw a straight line or didn't know what a triangle was or a circle. And that's not like I'm not saying like the identification properties like geometry of what a circle is and a triangle and a square and a straight line. I mean, legitimately didn't know what it was. Like just draw a circle or draw a triangle, draw a straight line. Not a clue. People think I'm joking when I share these stories. I got endless stories that I could share in a book of just the mind-blowing things you see. And not all schools are like this. Just want to be clear. Not all schools are like this. But you see some pretty remarkable things, and it's sad to watch because you care about the individuals. You want nothing but the best for them, and by individuals I mean students. You know, they're there for an education, and some aren't, to be quite frank. But we got a lot of problems in the education field, and one of the things is you don't get held back anymore. So when we all grew up, people were held back. You'd have like a 18-year-old in your freshman year class or something. You know, that's not a thing anymore. Nobody gets held back. So everybody just gets pumped through the system, and you know, it is what it is. So I went to a tech school and got a job the day after I graduated. That's what I love to see, a tech job. Here, I'll share a trend with you guys. So, you know, you have all these different generations. Well, for the longest time, the use of technology and the understanding of it went like this. I guess I should go this way. And what we're seeing is it peaked with Gen Z. It peaked with the tail end of millennials, my generation. And now the understanding of technology is actually going like this. So all these kids that we call like iPad kids or that grew up like basically from 2000, I'd say 2005 on roughly, 2006, 2007, don't know how to use technology in the same capacity as like millennials. So you're actually seeing the downgrade of understanding of technology. The reason why that's such a problem is because you're seeing a reverse. You're seeing things go like this. I guess I should say like, I can't even do it. There you go, like that. Where basically technology is increasing and the usage of it, obviously, and then the understanding of how it works is actually going down. The first time in 100 years, the American IQ has actually dropped. And by the way, I'm just ranting. I'm literally just waiting for Korean Jean-Pierre. We're going on 30 minutes. 30 minutes, and I started actually streaming later than usual. I was like, we'll just show up like 5 minutes before the meeting. Still waiting for her. It's really a remarkable thing. We are still waiting for Cringe Jean-Pierre. But anyways, yeah, so the problem with that is there's a huge correlation between IQ scores and basically job performance and understanding how certain technology aspects work. And by strong correlation, I'm talking like a 0.4 to 0.5. And so the more that correlation represents one another, the more accurate it will be in terms of job assessment. And so since people don't know how to function technology, what you're going to see later on is that there's going to be a high demand for those jobs that require technology. And the more advanced your country is in utilizing that technology, you got a massive problem on your hands with IQ dropping. I am a vet tech, took the tech program at community college to your program. That was 16 years ago. Nice. There we go. I love animals. I'm Gen X, and we use card catalogs in the library. I remember those. Went to the computer lab to type up our papers, walked to school uphill both ways in the snow every day. I used to ride my bike to school. I don't know if I ever shared this because my mom actually watches the show. I got hit by a car in 6th grade one time by a lady in a white Honda Civic. I don't think I ever shared that story with her. So mom, if you're watching this, I actually got hit by a car. A blonde lady freaked out, threw me into the street. Luckily enough, I was fine, but it did bend my, pedal. But I remember looking up books with a card, you know, and be able to type papers. I don't know where Sideshow, I'm here with you. I don't know where she's at. I'm right there with all of you. They're more important than us. If you're tuning in, folks, we are live on Rumble, Twitter, and X. We are just literally waiting for Korean Jean-Pierre to take the podium. She's 30 minutes late to her own press briefing. Remarkable stuff. So we're just here chatting with the Patriots. We got about 30 people watching over at Twitter, or also known as X. We got a bunch of people watching over at YouTube, and we got a lot of people watching over at Rumble If you haven't headed over to Rumble and followed us, would love for you to do that. We're trying to grow our community over there because YouTube is a bunch of censorship trolls that love to either flag our videos, they try to copyright us, whatever it may be. I miss the uphill, downhill school stories. Yeah. It sucked those mornings. So I had to ride my bike to school every day. And when it rained, you go to school like drenched in water. So those days, sometimes my mom would let me throw the bike in the back of the truck and she would drop me off at school, which was nice. But nowadays, kids just drive. You know what I mean? Most kids drive to school. Rant time, a good time. Always try to rant. You guys love the rants, I guess. Jennifer, my 15-year-old daughter just got accepted to dual enrollment in our local university. Congratulations. Heck yeah, Jen. That's awesome to hear. Always good news. Good news to hear from Patriots. Love it. Love it. Dude, we got such an awesome community. I'll give you something to cry about. Uh-oh. Don't make me pull this car over. Oh, yeah, I remember those days. The threat of pulling the car over on the side of the freeway because you've been acting up, you don't get your tushy whooped. Can't do that anymore. Can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. Nope. You can't spank your kids no more, folks. Not allowed. They don't know how many nickels are in a quarter. That dude, you don't even know half of it, my friend. Don't even know half of it. Half the kids don't care about getting their driver's license nowadays. Well, I mean, now they have Uber, right? So, I don't know. Let me know if you guys have any questions about anything. Politics, what's going on? While we're waiting for Cringe Jean-Pierre, it could be about me personally. It could be about education, what I think about this or that. If you have any questions, if it's about personal finance, I teach personal finance. I teach statistics. If you want to know more about statistics, how polls work, if you want to know about questionnaires, the biases that seep into it, the correlation coefficients of things. Heck, I don't know. She's late again then. Oh, yeah, Kingsman, she is very late. We are over 33 minutes late now at this point. Is that remarkable? By the way, I keep refreshing the page just to make sure that I'm not missing it. And still not there. It's been on this page for 30 minutes now. Look, started streaming 46 minutes ago. We'll just wait. Who's going to be VP? That's a great pick. Great pick. We keep asking this question. I don't know. I really want Vivek, man. Honestly, if it's anybody other than Vivek, I'm gonna be disappointed. That's the honest take. But I mean, supposedly it's either gonna be Marco Rubio or JD Vance. I don't know much about JD Vance. Marco Rubio. I'm not against Marco Rubio. I would love, since he's very much into the UFO disclosure. I love that type of stuff. I love the supernatural. I wouldn't be opposed to him being there because maybe we actually get some disclosure on what the hell's going on. I'd like to see Vivek or Tulsi. Tulsi Gabbard's not a bad pick. Really isn't. Like, she's grown on me over the last few years. Big time. Cream is putting on her ton of makeup. And maybe. I think she lost her binder, man. Have you ever been with another man? That's weird. Absolutely not. We always lived just far enough away I couldn't ride the bus, but learned to cope with life as a lackey child. 1.5 mile walk to school and back home every day. Early on, before I started riding, I did walk to school. Could Rubio run with Trump? Yeah, Rubio could run with Trump. And Rubio's not a terrible pick. Especially like I said, with him able to speak, he speaks Spanish. He's able to actually grab a hold of, I think, a big portion of the country that otherwise Republicans were lacking in. This has been something that's been talked about for 10 years at least. We need to do a better job as a party of reaching the Hispanic vote and the Latino vote. And one of those things to do that is to be able to speak their language. And so a lot of politicians have been trying to learn the language so they can speak on multiple fronts and reach a broader audience, which is understandable. So Rubio would definitely not be a bad pick to try to do that. He's been pushing illegal immigration. I mean, he's not a terrible pick. I just don't think he can carry the message in the same way that Vivek can. Vivek is very good at taking Donald Trump's or anybody's message and going into the fine details of what it means, how it could work, who it can affect, where it would happen, how it would happen, in fine detail. And he does it in a way that it's just perfect. And Trump needs that. What's going on, Randy? Question: my husband and I don't know if we should put 2 large checks in the bank or not. Well, the general rule is, right, so if you're curious, I follow Dave Ramsey very specifically, I'm very strict with Dave Ramsey. So the first thing you want to do is have an emergency fund. Emergency fund, Dave Ramsey says you should have $1,000. Well, that $1,000 was also stated in the early 90s. An emergency, right, you blow it, you have to get your tires repaired on some cars is over $1,000, depending on where you're at. So I always say in a high yield money market account, you should have $1,000 to $3,000 at all times as an emergency fund. The second thing you want to do is pay off your debts. And you can do the debt snowball. You can pay off the highest interest one first and then snowball it the other way, however you want to do that. But you want to pay off all your debts. Step 3 is to have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. So for example, you have the $1,000 to $3,000 already. I'm going to say you should have $3,000 in a savings account at all times, right? High yield, so you're not losing money against inflation. After that, you want to have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. So if somebody, God forbid, loses their job, you're able to look for work. Heck, even take a job at McDonald's. A job's a job. But you have at least 3 to 6 months saved. So if you have $2,000 a month in expenses, then you would want to save $12,000 in your savings, plus the $3,000, making it $15,000 at all times in case something bad happens. Now, I am overly prepared because I'm scared something might happen. So that's why I work a ton of jobs. And then step 4 is, you pay down your house, you start setting up education, like 529 plan, stuff like that. So you could put 2 large checks in there, but you want to make sure you're paying off those debts, and preferably don't use the credit card. And if you are using a credit card, treat it as a debit card. With the government being so close to some kind of economical shutdown, would it be wise to put money in the bank or just hold on to it or put it in tangible funds? Well, I mean, if you put it into a bank that's FDIC insured, right? You're FDIC insured up to $250,000. So it's not a bad thing. The reason why some people got so spooked with the Credit Suisse and the other banks that collapsed was some people had over $250,000. And so obviously the money exceeded that wouldn't be insured. So they're kind of screwed. But you should have money in, as long as you have your 3 to 6 months plus your emergency fund, you're good. Everything outside of that really should be in investments. The market is going to go down, but it's also going to go up. So you got to take everything based on, let me pull it up for you guys if you're interested in this. I feel like I'm giving a finance lesson here, which I don't mind by any means. We base everything off just data, right? And so your safest bet would be to put the money in the market as well as real estate, but you have the market itself. And so one thing we can look at is the S&P 500, and we could take the entire all-time S&P 500, which is what you see on your screen here, and there's a continuous positive trend, right? And so over the years, capitalizing on compound interest, that's why you'd want your money invested. But if you look, doesn't mean there hasn't been dips, right? So since 2000, it doesn't mean there hasn't been dips. Of course, there's going to be dips, but that's the best indicator of making money. And that's basically why a lot of people pour their money into a 401k, a 403b, into the market. So hopefully I answered your question. You can put money in tangible funds. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you talking about like mutual funds? I was on the Dave Ramsey show when I became debt-free. Awesome. And yelled debt-free. No way, Z. That's awesome. Good for you, man. We all have a manual Honda of some kind. These kids can't drive an automatic transmission. Liz, you're going to hate it. I actually don't know how to drive a manual myself. My mom knows how to drive, and so did my father. My father's not around anymore. Passed away 6 years ago this November, unfortunately. But they know how to drive manual. I actually do not. I would love to learn. With Rubio being from Florida, isn't this illegal as both the press and VP from same state as per Constitution? Not sure. Fortunately, I'm not sure what you mean by it. I'm going to look over at Rumble real quick. Got a lot of people. Willie's over there. This is the worst administration ever for being on time. I mean, isn't this wild, you guys? Yo, isn't this wild? 40 minutes. Brad, do you think the World War III is a possibility? Absolutely. Totally. The way that you have, remember, Putin's dude's off his rocker, man. You got Putin invading Ukraine, right? If Putin exceeds past that, which right now it doesn't look like he's going to beat Ukraine. The fact that Ukraine's going to beat Russia it's insane to me personally why people believe that. I don't know why they do. There's no way that Ukraine is going to beat Russia on their own. The real threat too is China. So we've covered this a lot in the past. Is we've looked at leaked audio of like Chinese meetings. We've looked at their maps of the certain provinces of China that they mapped out themselves, that if those collapse, then a advance into a war with Taiwan wouldn't be actionable. And so they have full plans. They are like, it's all been drawn out. The Chinese are right now our biggest threat easily to the country. And a lot of people for some reason don't want to acknowledge that. They're growing up they're growing their military. They're building these islands. They're buying farmland next to our military installations. They're flying balloons. They're gathering surveillance. I mean, they're taking our technology. So I think World War III is a huge possibility. I mean, if you look how close World War I and World War II were to each other, it's definitely a scary thing. I don't want to go to war, to be honest. I'm 35, so I'm still technically eligible. QQ, thank you so much for being a supporter over at Rumble. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you, sir. True American patriot. Love that. Yeah, World War III is scary, but I definitely do think it's a possibility. As far as the probability of it, percentage-wise, I don't know. But there's a lot of rumors that are swirling. So there are journalists just waiting in the White House briefing room for Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah, there are, literally. So right now, you can't see it on the screen, but they're just sitting in that room, some of them, and then some of them are also off to the side, or if you're facing the podium, to the right is actually a door to the outside. And so a lot of them will stand outside, they'll take phone calls, sometimes they'll do actual interviews right there, and or they'll work on stuff. They have hookups in there, they have plugs, so some of them just sit on their laptops and work, or sometimes they'll actually do interviews in the room. You might see it, but yo, this is crazy. I'm not sure if I've ever seen it go on past 45 minutes, so this is new. Oh, your sweet sunset. Okay, you threw me off there for a second. Thank you. Okay, so I think it's GRNQQ is sweet sunset. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, smash the like button. Thank you so much. Jesus will come first before Creech up here at this point. Holy Lord. Oh, that was good. Brad Denton, this is pretty late for her. Maybe something big is gonna happen. Maybe. Yeah, 45. I mean, I want to say in the past I've heard her being like an hour late, and I don't know. Yo, this is crazy. Like gold. Yeah, you should always have a diversified portfolio. Absolutely, Patrick. So like gold, and the reason for that is the theory behind it is if there was a huge economic collapse, right? And let's face it, at some point there's going to be, based on our deficit. There's rumors out there that we could take up to like 150, $200 trillion of debt and still be okay. So take that for what it's worth. But if things were to collapse, the idea is that we would go back to the trade and barter of gold, silver, copper, precious metals, things like that, or go back to the gold standard. Is that true? I don't know. We've never really had a major meltdown. I mean, obviously you look at the Great Depression, which was obviously bad, but this would be something even way worse than that. And if we collapse, I mean, everybody runs on the dollar, right? Most countries run on the dollar, and that's why you see Brazil, Russia, India, China, the BRICS nations trying to move away from the dollar as an insurance because they know that it's probably going to collapse at some point, because we have these politicians, to our fault, that keep getting elected and keep spending more money than we have, which I'll never understand why we let that happen. It's my number one issue. It's higher than illegal immigration because I see where this is going, and it's a scary ass thing, man. Liz, my first car was a Yugo Speed. Fungible, not tangible. Oh, you meant fungible. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, you would be right. Gold, silver is tangible, right? Intangible would be like you're investing in some IP that you can't touch, right? Real estate's always a great one. The problem is real estate. I mean, look at California, right? What are you going to buy, $1 million house? We'll say 800,000 for a small property. You know how much money you'd have to charge per month to make that money back? You know, it's not, don't know if it's quite feasible as it was, 30 years ago or so. Isn't Jesus the only one that can persuade Biden to drop out? Yeah, he wants the Lord himself to come down and tell him, you can't do this, sir. Maybe binder's missing. That's what I said, Adam. So if you're joining us on Twitter, I apologize for the wait. I don't know why I'm apologizing. Corinne Jean-Pierre is the one that should be apologizing to all of us. We're sitting here waiting. There's 2,700 people just in her live stream alone. Dude, this is crazy. That's right. We got a lot of news and a lot of conversations to cover. I'm A-okay with it. I get to hang out with you fine patriots. She still isn't on what the F. I'm right there with you. That's what I'm saying. I just can't believe they are expected to wait for someone who just gaslights and lies. Yep. The disrespect runs deep with this woman. It really does. Which is always weird to me that if you saw how Trump was treated when he was president with the press, like, dude, they were cutting him off, disrespectful, even Kayleigh McEnany, right? They were rude to her, all these things, but it's like, oh, here we go, finally. So as you see, they literally do just sit there, waiting. And so to the right is where the door is outside. And so you'll see either Jackie Heinrich or Peter Doocy come up here in a little bit. We got Ed down there, the bald-headed guy. Good. I'm trying to see. Okay, right behind Ed is Philip Wegman. That's who we want to see in the room. Phil's our boy. Let's fix this. Let's cover the sign language lady. Okay, so Associated Press is in the middle. And I'm trying to see if the big thing is I think it's going to be Peter today. I don't think it's going to be Jackie. Okay, so you got Ed O'Keefe. Okay, we got Peter in the room. All right, so these are the people I wanted to see. I wanted to see Peter or Jackie. I mean, you can get one or the other no matter what. Peter's a good call, so we might get some drama here. You got Ed O'Keefe. I forget who Ed O'Keefe's with. For some reason, I want to say it's CBS. He's been pretty strong the last 2 years. We got Ed for Fox Business about the economy. Hopefully he'll get a question in. You have Philip Wegman in the back of Real Clear Politics. He's our gladiator. So we got both gladiators in the room, Philip Wegman and Peter Doocy. So I think we're in pretty good shape here if they get called on to have a little bit of momentum here in the room. So this is good stuff. Yeah, we haven't seen Doocy in a while. I think Doocy hasn't been in since the 29th, maybe. Maybe before that, probably been a couple weeks. So we're just waiting. There we go.
Monday.
Yeah, we haven't seen Doocy in a while. I think Doocy hasn't been in since the 29th, maybe. Maybe.
I have very long things. In recent days.
There we go.
On Friday, our economy created more than 200,000 jobs last month. Under President Biden's leadership, we have now created a total of 15.7 million jobs over the last 3.5 years. Yesterday, a record 3 million travelers were screened at airports, a sign that our economy is strong and Americans are back on the road for the summer in record numbers. Speaking of which, last week we sold 1 million barrels of gasoline to help lower gas prices ahead of the 4th of July, which saw the lowest gas prices in 3 years. And today, a new report from the Economic Innovation Group highlighted what the New York Times called a, quote, a remarkable comeback under President Biden. That report found that communities that have been lifted behind struggled under the last administration, what the Times called a particularly grim stretch under Donald Trump. But those communities are coming back under President Biden, with jobs growing more than 4 times faster than in the previous 4 years. Investments spurred by the president's Investing in America agenda are benefiting previously left behind communities. That's just some of the economic progress happening under President Biden. Watch out for more news in the coming days. Exciting. And next, I want to share highlights from the president's recent schedule, as well as looking ahead to the next 2 weeks. So over the last 10 days, President Biden has been hitting the road and meeting directly with the American people, as well as continuing his job as leader of the country. In the 2 days after the debate, he met with supporters in Atlanta, Raleigh, New York, and New Jersey. Last week, he delivered remarks on the Supreme Court, visited the D.C. Emergency Operations Center for a briefing on extreme weather events, hosted a Medal of Honor ceremony, and joined the First Lady for a 4th of July barbecue with active duty military service members and their families. Throughout the week, the president also spoke with leaders of the UK,
there's no apology
United
for being
Kingdom,
late. 45
Israel,
minutes late,
and the
50 minutes
Republic
late.
of South Africa. On Friday, the president traveled to Madison, Wisconsin for a campaign rally. On Sunday, just yesterday, he held numerous events across Pennsylvania with elected officials, including Governor Shapiro, Senator Fetterman, and Congresswoman Madeleine Dean. He participated in interviews, including joining Morning Joe just this morning. And throughout, the president has engaged with elected leaders, including members of Congress, governors, and local officials. This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg, who's not here, but Josh, you are here, I see you. So that will happen on Thursday, and travel to Michigan on Friday for a campaign event. And next week, he will travel to Texas and Las Vegas. On July 15th, he will commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act at the LBJ Presidential Library in Austin, Texas. He will highlight the Biden-Harris administration's progress advancing civil rights and his vision to bring America together. On July 16th, he will address the 115th NAACP National Convention in Las Vegas, emphasizing the Biden-Harris administration's commitment to advancing racial justice and equity for all Americans, including Black Americans. On July 17th, he will speak to the UNODOS annual conference, where he will underline the Biden-Harris administration's historic accomplishments, including lowering prescription drug costs for America's seniors, lowering the Latino uninsured rate, and creating a Latino small business boom. And finally, I just mentioned the U.S. is going to be hosting the 75th summit, the NATO summit, right here in the United States, obviously in Washington, D.C. this week. NATO is the most powerful and capable alliance in the world, and President Biden is proud, very proud, to have worked to strengthen it and also expand it. So with that, the Admiral from the National Security Council is here to take your questions on that.
Is John Kirby? Oh, it is
I do
John
have
Kirby.
a few things to get through, so I'll ask you to bear with me. As Crane mentioned, the President's looking forward to hosting the leaders from 38 different countries this week in Washington for a historic summit to mark the 75th anniversary of the NATO summit. This will obviously include the leaders of all our NATO allies, as well as NATO partners, including Ukraine, Japan, New Zealand, and the Republic of Korea. Before we discuss the schedule, I just want to take a minute to discuss the context in which NATO leaders will be gathering this week. For 75 years, NATO has served a vital role in protecting the American people and in making the world a less dangerous place. NATO is the strongest defensive alliance in history, and today it is bigger, stronger, better resourced, and more united than ever before, in large part due to President Biden's leadership over the past 3 years. He's worked hard to expand the alliance by welcoming 2 new members, Sweden and Finland, and will officially welcome in Sweden this week. He has spent countless hours rallying the alliance in 2021 and 2022 to build a global coalition to respond to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and to provide indispensable support to that country. And I'll get more on that in just a second. The President has also strongly encouraged greater partnerships between the NATO alliance and friendly nations around the world, particularly in the Indo-Pacific, as you will see. And the President knows that the global threats and challenges that we all face, including from authoritarian actors and terrorist organizations, are inextricably linked. He has also encouraged our NATO allies to join him in making significant investments in our mutual defense and deterrence capabilities. And when the Biden-Harris administration took office, only 9 NATO allies were spending at least 2% of their gross domestic product on defense. 2% was the Wales pledge. That was the goal that every member of the alliance had swore that they would get to. Today, a record 23 NATO allies are at or above the minimum level of 2% of GDP on defense spending. More than twice as many as in 2020, and nearly 8 times higher than when the allies first set that 2% benchmark a decade ago. Now, just quickly turning to the schedule.
By Donald Trump?
Tomorrow evening, President Biden will welcome NATO leaders, and he and Dr. Biden will host a 75th anniversary commemoration event at the Mellon Auditorium. That is the site I think you all know when the NATO treaty was formally signed in 1949. On Wednesday, the President will hold his first bilateral meeting with the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, here at the White House. The President will also meet with the 32 members of the alliance at the Convention Center. And then later that evening, he and Dr. Biden will host NATO leaders for a dinner again here at the White House. On Thursday morning, NATO will hold a meeting with the EU and with NATO's Indo-Pacific partners, that's Australia, Japan, the Republic of Korea, and New Zealand, to deepen our cooperation. And then on Thursday afternoon, there'll be a meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council, after which the President will host an event with President Zelensky and nearly 24 of our allies and partners who have signed bilateral security agreements with Ukraine, just as the President did, as you saw in Italy a week or so ago. After that, the President will hold a press conference, I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all. Now, we're working to also set up some additional meetings, bilateral meetings.
We will be live Thursday for that stupid big boy conference, the first one with the President of the United States in 4 years. We'll be live for it.
Additional bilats, and as we get more fidelity on those, we'll let you know. Finally, as customary for summits the United States hosts, there'll be a Leaders, Spouses, and Partners program hosted by Dr. Biden. Now, if I could just quickly turn to Ukraine, because back to the context for what this meeting's all about, I think it's important to just do a quick update here what the situation is on the ground. Since the passage of the supplemental in April, the President has authorized 7 security packages to help Ukraine, including 5 drawdowns of munitions and equipment. The resumption of that U.S. aid has made a significant impact on the battlefield. Instead of the nightmare scenarios that were predicted several months ago about what we could see heading into the NATO summit, we've seen the situation stabilize. Ukrainian forces have successfully stopped Russia's attack north of Kharkiv, denying Russia the ability to take that city and limiting Russian gains to areas just across the border. The Ukrainians have held the line in Chaziv Yar. They've held fast east of Pokrovsk, hardening their defenses and ensuring that Russia will not break through. And they've halted Russian attacks in Zaporizhia. Throughout these last 3 months, the Russians have attacked relentlessly across all those fronts. And the price that they have paid for the few meters that they have gained here and there has been extensive. Heavy casualties, destroyed equipment, disrupted supply lines, degraded morale. The people of Ukraine have yet again demonstrated that when supplied and when supported by the international community in the United States, they can hold off the largest, though certainly not, I think it's clearly evident, the most capable
just the United
army
States.
in Europe. Their success is not just limited to the front. Ukraine has put U.S.-provided ATACMS, the long-range strike missiles, to good use in Crimea, destroying Russian surface-to-air missile systems, command nodes, airfields. They sunk the last cruise missile-capable warship in the port of Sevastopol, and the Russian Black Sea Fleet has now fled Crimea in response. While it's been heartening to see Ukraine hold on in this critical period, we should not forget the grim reality. Russia continues to bombard frontline towns with massive and low-accuracy glide bombs and sending missiles at Ukrainian cities, including over just the past weekend, where they hit a hospital, a children's hospital. Russia has ramped up its campaign against Ukrainian electrical generation, depriving the civilian population of power and attempting to set the conditions to punish them over the fall and the winter. To strengthen Ukraine's air defenses and to help Ukraine protect its cities and its grid, the United States and several of our allies will have several big announcements at this week's summit. And the NATO alliance will announce significant new steps to strengthen its military and political partnership with Ukraine to help Ukraine continue to defend themselves today and to deter Russian aggression well into the future. These elements, taken together with bilateral support, are part of a bridge to Ukraine's NATO membership. Together, the Washington summit will send a strong signal to Mr. Putin that if he thinks he can outlast the coalition of countries that are supporting Ukraine, he's dead wrong again. As President Biden has said himself, Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people
trying to kill time,
refuse to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness.
Thanks, Ben. Good.
Thanks, John. You mentioned the context of this summit this week. It's also the first time the president interacted with these world leaders since that the disastrous debate against former President Trump 10 days or so ago, where the president struggled to confront the former president on all sorts of things. What is the president's, does the president feel how does he plan to reassure American allies in NATO that he's up for the job now when he couldn't confront Trump on stage then?
I think the question presupposes the notion that they need to be reassured of American leadership and President Biden's commitment, and I don't believe that's the case. We're not picking up any signs of that from our allies at all, quite the contrary. The conversations that we're having with them in advance, they're excited about this summit, they're excited about the possibilities and the things that we're going to be doing together, specifically to help Ukraine.
You've seen zero, I mean, there have been stories in multiple outlets on both sides of the Atlantic over the last several days with questions from European leaders about the president's capacity to lead the United States. Are you just denying that?
I'm not aware of any such conversations that have been had, certainly none with us and here at the White House and with our staff. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, right.
I want to go back to what I said at the beginning. In the last 3 years, rather than browbeaten and insulting and demeaning allies, this president has invested in allies and partnerships. And when he took office, what I said, only nine allies had reached the 2% level. Now 23. That's not by accident. That's because of leadership. That's because of constant stewardship of the alliance and other partnerships around the world. The president's record speaks for itself, and the allies and the non-NATO friends and partners that are coming as well, they know that. They wouldn't be coming. New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, to a NATO summit if they didn't believe in American leadership and how important it is, and if they didn't believe that President Biden takes that responsibility extremely seriously.
Admiral, good to see you. On the point about European countries, NATO members boosting their defense spending, that was something, though, that was a big concern of the last president. It's part of the reason many of them are boosting their funding.
There you
and
go.
It was a concern of the president before the last president. As you recall, President Obama said the same thing. This pledge goes back a decade or so.
It was Trump.
But the numbers speak for themselves, Ed. I mean, rather than browbeating and yelling and screaming and complaining and whining about it, President Biden invested in this alliance. And just the last 3.5 years now, more than double the number of allies have reached that 2%.
Two questions on the fallout from the debate. Have you, in your meetings with him, ever seen him appear similarly to the way he did on debate night?
Look, I'm a spokesman.
And you're in a lot of meetings with him.
I am. The last thing I'm going to do is sit here and talk about every meeting I've had with the president. What I can tell you is,
wow,
what I saw in that debate is not reflective of the man and the leader and the commander-in-chief that I have spent many, many hours with over the last 2.5 years in terms of the specificity of the way he probes, the questions he asks. Heck, just this morning, he was asking me questions about the situation on the European continent that I couldn't answer, and I told him I had to get back to him.
When he met with governors last week, he suggested he'd like to curtail events that begin after 8 p.m. at night, just because he'd rather focus on resting and doesn't want to have a long day. In your understanding of things, has the National Security Council ever withheld information from him he should have known late at night out of concern he might not be able to process it?
No.
Good question.
Russia has bombed Ukraine's largest children's hospital, as you noted. Do you believe the timing of these strikes is meant to send a message to NATO ahead of this week's summit?
It's hard to draw a line, Mary, to that. I mean, sadly, this is par for the course for Mr. Putin to hit civilian infrastructure, and he doesn't care whether he's hitting hospitals or residential buildings. I can't draw a line that this is some sort of message. But look, I mean, as I said, what you're going to see over the course of the week is a very set of strong signals and messages to Mr. Putin that he can't wait NATO out, can't wait the United States out, that we're going to continue to support Ukraine.
I'm sorry. Okay. I just wanted to ask about the air defenses and some of the sort of deliverables that are coming out of the NATO summit. Can you walk us through what you think will be happening in terms of any additional commitments in addition to the funding packages that have come? And can you say a few words about this project to sort of consolidate the way that weapons are going to Ukraine through the distribution center that I think there's a center that'll be set up in Wiesbaden under
Coordination.
Coordination.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The purpose for me to come today was just kind of give you the laydown of the summit ahead, and not to get too far ahead of the leaders and the specific deliverables. But so without doing that and without getting fired, I'll just tell you that you're going to see some announcements on air defense. You're going to see some announcements on deterrence capabilities, not just with respect to helping Ukraine, but boosting the alliance. You're going to see some announcements with respect to the defense industrial base and how to shore up that and make it more resilient and invest in it more, including in our own industrial base here in the United States. And you're going to see, as I alluded to, some discussion about Ukraine's path to NATO and what that can look like, and a reaffirmation of what the president has long said, that NATO is in Ukraine's future.
Just to follow up on that, can you say whether the word irreversible will be in the communique?
I'm not going to get ahead of the specific language one way or the other.
And then just on Israel and Gaza, can you say anything about the Israeli response to the Hamas response to the ceasefire proposal? Lots of responses.
Yeah, so no surprise to y'all, I'm not going to negotiate here from the podium in public. I would just tell you that there has been some back and forth. As you know, we have a team in Cairo right now that includes Brett McGurk and the director of the CIA. They're meeting with their Egyptian, Israeli, and Jordanian counterparts, and there'll be follow-on discussions after that over the next few days. Look, we've been working this very, very hard, and there are still some gaps that remain in the two sides and the positions. But we wouldn't have sent a team over there if we didn't think that we had a shot here, and we're going to take every shot we can to see if we can't get this ceasefire deal in place.
Within days?
I couldn't give you a date certain.
David?
Thank you. John, thanks for doing this. First, just to follow up on the communique, even if you can't get into irreversible, the president's objection last year and Chancellor Scholz's objection, if I remember Vilnius correctly, was that neither one of them wanted a date set, for fear, I assume, that the United States and its allies would be drawn into the ground war if Ukraine was still at war while a NATO member. Does that remain today to be his primary objection? Is he willing to do wording that just is short of a date? Because even if you do the word irreversible or not, it doesn't really change the meaning very much of what you published in Vilnius. And I have a second on just the level of...
I'll make this simple but unsatisfying. Again, I'm not going to get into the text and the discussions about what the draft's going to look like, David. I think you can understand that. But I do think your question is important to provide some context to. The president still believes that NATO is in Ukraine's future. What that future looks like depends on an awful lot of factors. Right now, you got a war going on inside Ukraine, and the focus rightly's got to be on helping them win that war. And we are, as I detailed in my opening statement. Number two, for any country that wants to join NATO, any country, and it's an alliance of democracies, the democracies have to meet certain guidelines, particularly when it comes to governance. And we are and will continue to work with Ukraine on reforms that are necessary for any democracy that wants to be a member of NATO. And then the third thing I'd say is, you know, it's a unanimous vote. Everybody has to be on board with that, and that can take some time as well. So the focus is on making sure that they can win now, and that we can continue to work with Ukraine so that there is a path to NATO. The last thing I'd say is back to the bilateral security agreement that the president signed with President Zelensky at the G7 in Italy. I mean, we're one of many other nations that have done that too, because we know that whenever this war ends, however it ends, and whatever the border looks like, Ukraine's still going to have a long border with Russia that's going to need to be defended. And they're going to need the reassurance of being able to put forth a capable and competent defensive capability against Russian forces going forward. And that's why we're making sure that there are things in line to make sure that Ukraine can defend itself.
One follow-up on that. You mentioned that it was 10 years ago that the 2% GDP goal was set. Obviously, there was no war underway at that time, and so the entire security situation looks radically different than it did when that was set.
Well, I beg to differ. There was There was fighting in Afghanistan, and Mr. Putin invaded Ukraine in 2014.
Yeah. But I think the 2% may have been set.
It was in Wales. It might have been set before the invasion, but nevertheless, it was still a tense security environment.
Right. We're in something much different today. I think we're all in agreement, just given the amount of arms
No
and so
argument.
forth going in. So, is part of the president's message at this summit that 2% is in the rearview mirror, that the NATO allies are going to have to be spending significantly more than that, maybe double that, for some countries, some larger economies? Or is he going to stay away from numbers? I know it's politically sensitive with all of them. You mentioned the word win. I was wondering how you're defining that.
Okay, there's a lot there. The president's not going to set a new bar or a new level of GDP spending on defense here at this summit. The goal is 2%. It was a commitment everybody made 10 years ago. Not everybody's there. Most of the remaining nations that haven't reached 2%, most of them, not all, are working on it and are getting there. And so I think the president wants to focus on that. Wants to laud and commemorate those who have, but also make it clear that those who haven't still have some work to do. On win, I think we've been consistent about this. I mean, at least I think I have. I mean, we want all of Ukraine's sovereign territory respected, which means we want no Russian forces in any part of Ukraine by the internationally recognized boundaries.
John, you just said, answering a question to Zeke, you're not picking up on signs of allies needing reassurances when it comes to President Biden. But the allies also look for a secure United States. Have you heard any conversations from the allies about issues of the elections process here, what they've been seeing, and the stability of the United States in the next few months, couple of years, etc.?
I'm not aware of any specific conversations with respect to our domestic political situation. But look, April, we watch the domestic political situation of our allies and partners.
While he's rambling, usually that reporter that just asked that question spins everything into race.
That they're watching ours as
So I
well,
guarantee you, somehow she might try to spin this into voter ID.
with a lot of keen interest. We certainly would expect that. But I'm not aware of any conversations that we've had at senior levels here, at the NSC or elsewhere at the White House, from allies specifically about this particular election.
European Union who gathered reporters a couple of years ago with concerns about democracy here?
They might be talking to y'all, but I'm not aware of any specific conversations here.
Just want to circle back, Admiral, on Ed's question. So you said broadly that the president, in your view, is not represented by what was on the debate stage. Then you gave us an anecdote about a meeting today where he was engaged and so forth. Are you saying you have never encountered a situation where you thought that he was displaying any of those symptoms or affectations or something that would give pause, or are you just declining to answer one way or another?
Well, I'm a little uncomfortable answering these kinds of questions because as a spokesman, my job is to be an advisor and counselor, and I don't think it's appropriate for a spokesman to... I did because I wanted to make it clear. So, yes, I'm uncomfortable with these kinds of questions, but to answer your specific question, in my experience, the last 2.5 years, I have not seen any reason whatsoever to question or doubt his lucidity, his grasp of context, his probing nature, and the degree to which he is completely in charge of facts and figures. And if he isn't, what I've seen is, because it happened to me this morning, when he isn't and when I can't be in command of those facts and figures, I have to fess up and go get the information that he's asking for. And he asked me some questions this morning I didn't have answers for.
Okay, Nadia. Thank you, Karine. 2 questions on the Middle East. Israel has conducted the largest seizure of land in the West Bank, which undermines the president's vision for two-state solution. So why the White House has been not mum on that, and will the president...
It's not that we've been mum. There was a statement put out by the State Department about this call for settlements. Nothing's changed about our view that settlements continue to be counterproductive to peace and stability and the possibility of a two-state solution. We don't support that.
Okay, and second, you mentioned about the Ukraine and Russia in terms of the civilian casualties. The UN said today that actually half of the facilities of UNRWA has been hit, and 520 people are being killed in addition to the aid workers. So do you still believe that Israel is doing what it takes to protect civilian lives, including women and children?
We certainly believe that they need to continue to do more to protect innocent civilian life.
Doing much. I mean, I've been asking this question for 9 months.
Your question wasn't about what they're doing or not doing. Your question was, do we believe that they should do more? And my answer is yes, well, they need to do more to protect civilian life. And we're going to continue to have conversations with them about how they're prosecuting these operations.
Thanks, John. Just sticking with the Middle East, but connecting it to the other big story. During the ABC News interview on Friday, George Stephanopoulos asked the President, was he, quote, the same man today that you were when you took office 3.5 years ago? And the President's reply began, in terms of successes, yes, I was also the guy who put together a peace plan for the Middle East that may be coming to fruition. Now, it may or may not be coming to fruition, we don't know. We do know 38,000 people have been killed in Gaza, almost 2 million displaced, and according to UNICEF, 1 in 3 children under the age of 2 is suffering from acute malnutrition. Does the President consider his Gaza policy a success?
The President believes wholeheartedly that this ceasefire proposal that we are trying to get done will make a big difference in terms of not only temporarily ceasing hostilities, but potentially giving us an opening to end this conflict. It's important to remember how this started, and you talked about our Gaza policy. I'll state it for you again. We want to make sure Israel has a right to defend itself from the kinds of attacks it suffered on the 7th of October, which I know is easy for people to forget. 1,200 people slaughtered, most at a music festival. Number 2, that Israel is doing everything they can to protect innocent civilian life. Is it enough? No. They need to continue to do more. And that we are doing everything we can to give humanitarian assistance into the people of Gaza. That's our Gaza policy. And as the President has also said, we would be and will still continue to be willing to adjust the policies that we are executing with respect to Gaza as we see things unfold on the ground.
But the broader question was, does he consider his policy to have been successful?
Israel is defending itself against a terrorist attack, so we can check that off. Humanitarian assistance continues to flow. In fact, if it wasn't for the United States, I dare say that not a fraction of the humanitarian assistance that is getting into Gaza would get in. Is it enough? No. And the Israelis have taken some steps to be more precise, more discriminate, and more careful in their operations. Is it enough? No. So we're going to keep at it. We're going to keep working on this.
Is it enough? No. The President described Israel as bombing, indiscriminate bombing in December. 7 months have passed and you have paused 1 arms shipment, as I understand. Is that fair?
That's right. Is there a question here?
Do you think that that's an effective response to indiscriminate bombing of a civilian population?
It's never right to be conducting indiscriminate bombing of a civilian population. That's why we continue to work with the Israelis to be more precise, to be more careful.
All right, just a couple more. Go ahead, Michael.
Sorry. Hi, Admiral. Can I just start with the Middle East as well? Hamas has accused Netanyahu of putting obstacles in the way of the ceasefire deal that is being talked about now. Does the US think that Netanyahu's government is doing everything it can to secure the ceasefire deal?
We're working hard to get that ceasefire deal in place. I'm not going to negotiate here in public or talk about who's saying what and who's doing what. We have seen both sides now, as Andrea rightly asked in her question. We've seen both sides come out with some public statements with respect to the text. The last thing I'm going to do is get into bartering here. We're trying to close those gaps as best we can. We wouldn't have sent the CIA director or Brett McGurk to Cairo if we didn't believe it was worth a shot and worth a chance. I would also add that on both sides, you see public comments that aren't necessarily fully reflective of the conversations that we're having with privately with them or their interlocutors.
Secondly, just on Ukraine, there was a bit of an information battle over the weekend. The Russians said that they destroyed 2 Ukrainian Patriot missile systems. The Ukrainians said that they were decoys. Does the US have its own independent evaluation of what happened during that strike? And what is the state of Ukraine's air defense system when it comes to Patriot missile systems?
Yes, we do. I'm not going to talk about it. And I think you're going to hear more here this week about what the Allies and the United States are going to do to continue to bolster Ukrainian air defense. Look, I know we get hung up on the Patriots, and I get that. There has been contributions of Patriot systems by other nations. We talked about how we're resequencing some of our deliveries of Patriot interceptors from some countries, now diverting them to Ukraine. We're doing that. Other nations are also trying to contribute Patriots. But let's not get caught up on just one system. There's short range, there's medium range, and there's long range air defense. And Ukraine needs all of it. And again, I think you're going to see this week the Allies really stepping up and showing that they're willing to continue to provide those kinds of capabilities.
Go ahead, Josh. John, Viktor Orbán is visiting China right now on the heels of a visit to Russia. I'm wondering whether the U.S. has any views on that and what impact it might have on the situation in Ukraine.
Yeah, we're concerned about it. It certainly doesn't seem to be productive in terms of trying to get things done in Ukraine and trying to move forward to achieve this just peace that President Zelensky continues to work hard, and we continue to try to operationalize. But yeah, it's concerning.
Was there any advance notification given to the U.S. on either trip, Russia?
None that I'm aware of.
Can I try one more time on irreversible? Does the U.S.
Yes,
have a
you can
position?
try.
Does the U.S. have a position on the inclusion of that word?
Our position is that NATO is going to be in Ukraine's future. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to get to that point, and the president's looking forward to talking to President Zelensky and our NATO allies about that path, that bridge to NATO.
Anita. Thank you so much, John. A question on Ukraine and one on Iran. Starting with Ukraine and this Russian rocket attack that killed 30 people at the largest children's hospital. Does this shift the U.S.'s position on not allowing Ukraine to strike directly at Russian airfields that originated these attacks?
Shift the position.
Yes. Make you change your mind about not allowing that, and how do you justify not giving Ukraine permission to attack?
Well, there's been no change in our policy. You saw that the president several weeks ago gave guidance to Ukraine that they can use U.S.-supplied weapons to strike targets just over the border. That's still the case.
On Iran, we've heard the U.S. say that this presidential election was not free and fair, that they have doubts that this is going to change anything meaningfully, but we've also heard the U.S. say that they will negotiate or do diplomacy with Iran when it serves our national interests. So is the U.S. now ready to resume nuclear talks, other talks, or make any diplomatic moves with Iran in light of this new president?
No.
Okay, Ariel. I'm sorry. No, can you elaborate, please?
Well, it seemed like a pretty easy question to answer. No, we're not in a position where we're willing to get back to the negotiating table with Iran just based on the fact that they've elected a new president. They're still supporting terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. They're still supporting the Houthis as the Houthis attack ships in the Red Sea. They're still attacking shipping as well. And they're still supplying drones and drone technology and drone expertise to the Russians so that the Russians can continue to kill innocent Ukrainians like they did over the weekend. So no.
A bit more moderate. Do you see any opening?
We'll see what this guy wants to get done, but we are not expecting any changes in Iranian behavior, sadly.
We got Ariel. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. John, this morning the president said that France rejected extremism during the latest parliamentary election and expressed his confidence that the United States would also do so. So France has a very different electoral system, as you know. So why this optimism from the president? And more broadly, was there a sense of relief in the administration that the election turned out the way it did?
I think it's pretty clear from the election that the far right didn't find the purchase that it wanted to find, and that compromise in a democracy is going to have to still be the watchword in France as it is here in the United States. And it's not going to change our strong relationship with France. It's not going to change the fact that France is a valued NATO ally. And the president's looking forward to continuing to work with President Macron and the entire team.
All right, last question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you, Admiral. I was just wondering, with the renewed spotlight and scrutiny on President Biden in public settings this week, how he's preparing for the NATO summit, how you guys are deciding how many questions to take at the press conference.
You got to ask the press secretary that one.
You're the one who's prepping him for a lot of this on matters of national security and foreign policy.
So am I.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a team effort.
I will let Corinne talk about the press conference, the big boy press conference that y'all are planning to have. But he has already had discussions with his national security team in the lead up to the summit, as you might expect that he would. He's reviewing material. He's He's doing his homework and getting ready. He's got the first major set of remarks tomorrow night at the Mellon Auditorium. He's working his way through those remarks, as you would expect him to do. And he's getting ready for at least the 2 bilateral meetings.
Should have Karine coming up here in a second.
The new Prime Minister.
I keep looking at my watch. They spend about 30 minutes for each. So 30 minutes
what
for
I have
John,
seen from my
30 minutes
perch
for Karine.
is the normal amount of preparatory work that he does before a major international conference. No different than how he prepared for the G7 or for the events in Normandy or previous.
While he's rambling, hit that like button, folks, that thumbs up. It really does support us. We greatly appreciate it.
To play a role in the events this week or to take any meetings during the time that she'll be in Washington?
I can't speak for the Vice President's staff and team, but I can have them get back to you about what her schedule is going to look like.
Thank you so much, Admiral.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
guys.
much. Thank you, Admiral. Okay, well, all the debate questions have been answered. Press conference answered. Let me close my book and get out of here. Hi, Zeke.
Thanks, Karine. My first to you is on the credibility of this White House when it comes to talking about the president's health. When you were here last Tuesday, you were asked if the president had had any medical examinations since his physical in February, or that included the time period after the debate. You said flatly no. 3 days later, you admitted the president had a quote, short check-in with the medical team thereafter. I mean, those are two very different answers.
No. Actually, if you were to listen to I think I did a 30-minute gaggle on Friday, 30 minutes with I think it was with the pool, and I said he did not have a medical. I cleared it up. You're right. You're correct. I said he didn't. I still stand, but he didn't have a medical exam. I said that in the gaggle, and you're right. I said that in the briefing. He had a check-in with, and
Wow.
he said this on Friday. He had a check-in with his medical doctor, which is something that he does a couple times a week, as you know, and I stated this as well. He has, for those who don't know, obviously outside of the briefing room, outside of the White House, many Americans don't actually understand this, so let's take a step back. They deal with their medical issues or physicals very, very differently. They are they are lucky if they get to see their doctor once or twice a year, right? They have to get in a car, they have to either take public transportation in order to make that happen. The president's medical unit is literally down on the other side of the colonnade, is just down the steps from the residence, and so a couple times a week he does a check-in, a verbal check-in with his doctor while he's exercising. That is something that happens often. Matter of fact, he did a check-in today because I know folks were going to ask about if he was tested for COVID. He was not. We are following CDC guidance. He was not tested for COVID, just to let you guys know about that one. And if he has any symptoms, obviously we would test him.
Is that
but
in the context of the second gentleman's diagnosis?
Yes, which is why. No. It's in context of the second gentleman. But to answer your point, he did not have a medical exam. He did not have a physical. He did do like a verbal check-in with his doctor a couple days after the debate, and it was very quick. It was a couple of words that were spoken to each other, and that's how we were able to give you that answer. But he did not have a medical exam. He did not have a physical.
You said no, though, last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Did you know about that verbal check-in, or did we just not ask him that precise enough questions?
So the line of questions that I was getting that day was, in the way that I was hearing the question, was about the medical exam. I answered MJ's question when she asked me medical exam, and I answered and I said no, physical, and then somebody else asked me, was there a check-in? I did not mean to steer anybody wrong. I was still thinking about the medical exam. I was still thinking about the physical. That's how I answered the question. And then when it became, when the president actually spoke to it, I went back, asked the medical doctor, and he said they had a verbal check-in. That's what he said. But in answering the question, I was talking about the medical exam. I was talking about the physical.
And then two quick ones. There's been a lot of reporting in the last 24 hours about a Parkinson's expert who's come to visit the White House almost a dozen times over the last year or so, including at least one meeting with the president's physician. Could you state, like, very clearly, yes or no, was that expert here to participate in anything surrounding the care of the President of the United States?
So let me just say a couple of things. We have had a comprehensive, and I just want to take another step back, comprehensive physical examination. The president has had that. We've given a comprehensive report. We've shared that the past 3 years. Every year that he has had this exam, he sees a neurologist. And just to give you a quote from that, from the report most recently in February, an extremely detailed neurological exam was again reassuring in that there were no findings which would be consistent with any cerebellar or other central neurological disorder, such as a stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis, end quote. So that came directly from in February in that comprehensive report that was provided by the president's doctor to me, that I share with all of you. So anyone who is watching can certainly go to our website.
Which was this expert's visit, was multiple visits to the White House pertaining at all to the president's care?
Well, here's the thing. I've said he has had three. He has had three physicals. In those 3 physicals, that's when he has seen a specialist, a neurological specialist. I have to be super mindful here, and this is why, and I'll explain this to you in a second. There are thousands of military personnel who come onto this White House. Many of them get the care from the White House medical unit, and so need to be super careful. There are, the medical unit hosts a wide range of specialists, from dermatologists to a neurologist, and so I cannot speak to every person because there's actually a security reasons to protect their privacy. We respect and protecting people's privacy, so do not want to share. I'm not going to share people's names from here, but the president, I can tell you, has seen a neurologist 3 times, as it's connected to a physical that he gets every year that we provide to all of you.
It's a very basic, direct question.
Wait, hold on, wait a second.
8 times, or at least once, in regards to the president specifically.
Hold on a second.
That's what you should be able to answer by this point.
Wait, no. No, wait a minute. Ed, please. A little respect here, please.
Oh, a little respect. Fuck
so
off, Green.
Every year, around the president's physical examination, he sees a neurologist. That's 3 times, right? So I am telling you that he has seen a neurologist 3 times while he has been in this presidency. That's what I'm saying. I am telling you that he has seen them 3 times. That is what I'm sharing with you, right? So every time he has a physical, he has had to see a neurologist. So that is answering that question.
No, it's not.
No, it is. It is. You're
Dr.
asking
Kevin
me.
Kennard come to the White House
But I
about
also
the
said to you,
condition.
Ed, I also said to you, for security reasons, we cannot share names. We cannot share names. We have to.
Others he would have met with.
We
but
cannot.
You can share names in regards to if someone came here in regards to the president.
We cannot share names of specialists broadly, from a dermatologist.
I told you we wanted to see Ed.
We cannot share names. There are security reasons. We have to protect. I understand that. I hear you.
Right there for anyone to see.
Ed, I hear you. I cannot from here confirm any of that because we have to keep their privacy. I think they would appreciate that too. We have to give them. We have to keep their privacy.
It is public.
I hear you. Guys, hold on a second. There's no reason to go back and forth and be in this aggressive way.
Miffed around here about how information's been shared with the press corps about him.
What do you miss about? What do you miss about?
Everything he just asked about.
And then every time I come back and I answer the question that you guys asked.
Correctly, then have to come back and clean it up.
I never answered the question incorrectly. That is not true. I was asked about a medical exam. I was asked about a physical. That was in the line of question that I answered. And I said, no, he did not have a medical exam. And I still stand by that. Matter of fact, the president still stands by that. He had a verbal check-in. That is something that the president has a couple times a week.
Now in regards to Dr. Kevin Kennard.
And I am telling you right now that I am not sharing confirming names from here. It is a security reasons. I am not going to do that, Ed. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me. I'm not going to confirm a name. It doesn't matter if it's even in the log. I am not going to do that from here. That is not something I am going to do. What I can share with you is that the president has seen a neurologist for his physical 3 times. 3 times. And it is in the reporting that we share a comprehensive reporting. Matter of fact, it's more than what the last guy shared, and it is in line with what George George W. Bush did. It's in line with what Obama did. And so it is comprehensive. It is out there. I just read a quote from it, but I am not going to devolve somebody's name or confirm someone. I'm not going to do that. That is as privacy for that person. I'm not going to do that. It doesn't matter how hard you push me. It doesn't matter how angry you get with me from here. I'm just not going to do that. It is inappropriate and it's not acceptable. So I'm not going to do it.
Not about the name.
Go ahead.
If you cannot confirm the name, can you confirm whether or not the president has seen this Parkinson's specialist? And you mentioned 3 times, but the visitor logs show a duration of 8 visits over 8 months. I think that is the crux of the question.
But I also said there are thousands of military personnel that come to the White House, and they are under the care of the medical unit. They are.
So can you confirm that the Parkinson's specialist visits were for the president or not?
What I can tell you is that the president has seen a neurologist 3 times, and I read to you what the neurologist has said, and I read to you the last line. I could say it again.
This is crazy.
No findings which would be consistent with any cerebellar or other central neurological disorders such as stroke, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or ascending lateral sclerosis. That is from February. That is coming from February. That is what the medical unit, the president's doctor, shared. And I said to you, it's happened 3 times. Each time there is a physical that occurs, and we put out a comprehensive report. That is when he has been able to see a specialist. So that's what I can share.
Question on this. Has the president, you mentioned Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, all of these things. One diagnosis that we have heard of, potential diagnosis, is hydrocephalus, which is fluid buildup in the brain. It's something we've never heard in any of the medical reports. Is that something that the president has been evaluating?
If it's not in the medical report, obviously it's not something that the president is dealing with. Well, I can tell you this. Just going back to Parkinson's for a little bit, so to give you some answers here. Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on. But I'm not going to confirm a specialist, any specialist that comes to the White House out of privacy.
Question is, will the president go to the Hill today? I know we saw his letter. Is he intending to have this conversation face to face with him?
So look, the president, obviously this is someone who is a senator for 36 years, who was the president of the Senate as when he was vice president for 8 years. And he truly respects the members of Congress, and has always and will always do that, especially as a former senator. And I will say, and you've heard us say this before, or most recently, is this is a president who's won the primary, right, by 14 million votes, 87% of those votes, so certainly. And look, I don't have any engagements to read out, outside of that. But I will say that the president was in Pennsylvania. I just mentioned at the top, he got to see Senator Fetterman, Senator Casey. He also got to see Congresswoman Dean. He spent some time with them. They traveled across Pennsylvania. And I will say, when the president gets knocked down, he gets back up. This is quintessential Joe Biden. And there are a long list of other congressional members who have shown their support for this president. I don't have anything else to read out. You saw the letter. The letter was, I think, pretty clear on where the president stands, and I'll just leave it there.
You've noted that there are thousands within the Walter Reed system who may be treated by a specialist who visits here at the White House, but this neurologist had a meeting with the president's physician, with his doctor. You're refusing to say if he was here to evaluate the president or if he was consulting on the president's health. So what then was that meeting about?
And I will say that Dr. O'Connor leads the medical unit. He leads the medical unit. No, because we will not confirm or speak to names that you're providing to me. It is out of security reason, is out of protecting someone's privacy. We're just not going to do that. But they are. The reason that I mention that is because there are 1,000 military members that do indeed use the White House medical unit. They do. They get care from that.
We're talking about the president of the United States.
Guys, I'm trying to answer the question so you can connect the dot that there are multiple neurologists that come, not neurologists, specialists that come through here because there are more than 1,000 medical military personnel here, military personnel here.
But you certainly could clear this all up just by saying what he was doing here and if it was connected to the president, yes or no?
I am not going to confirm
That's so crazy.
A particular neurologist, anybody. It doesn't matter if they're a dermatologist or
That's
a neurologist.
wild.
I'm just not going to do that. I shared with all of you that the president has been with the neurologist 3 times as it relates to his physical, 3 times. So I'm just not going to do that out of security reasons, out of privacy. It is not something that I'm going to do. A measure of privacy we have to be able to give people from here.
One other question. The president's doctor, you say, has seen no reason to evaluate him for Parkinson's since his physical in February. Is that based on these verbal check-ins that you've been describing, based on his public appearances?
Wait, say that one more time?
You've said that the president's doctor has seen no reason to evaluate him or reevaluate him for Parkinson's since that physical in February. What is that based on? Is it these verbal check-ins?
I never said that. Well, what I have said is is that he just had a physical just in February, and the physical was very clear. It was a comprehensive physical. We gave out a report on that, and as it relates to the check-ins, that is something that is common. The president has a medical unit that is literally down the hall that he's able to check in with when necessary. They normally do it while he's exercising.
This is why we go live.
That is not uncommon. It is very different.
This is why we show up.
Different than any everyday American. They do not have that option. They do not have that access because he's president of the United States. Every other president has had that access, and they are able to do that.
So just to be clear, yes or no, has his physician seen a reason to reevaluate him for Parkinson's since the February physical?
No, the comprehensive report that you all have stands. The president obviously will have another physical, and we'll wait for that physical.
Great.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
So the president has said twice that he's had neurological evaluations as part of his physicals, in these various interviews today and also on ABC. But there have been a number of people who have said, listen, why don't you have a cognitive test just to rule out that there are any issues?
Yes.
Would the president, would you counsel him to do that just to sort of put an end to these questions?
Andre, I hear you. The neurologists have said it is not warranted. The president himself, he said it today, he said it multiple times, and the doctor has said this. Everything that he does day in and day out as it relates to delivering for the American people is a cognitive test. And that is what the medical doctor has said. That is what the specialist has said. I just want to take a step back for a second, because I do take offense to what Ed alluded to. Come out here, every day there's a press briefing, and we do our best to give you the information that we have at the time.
No, you don't.
That's what we do. And we understand that the freedom of the press, we respect the freedom of the press. You heard me talk about this last week. I appreciate the back and forth that we all have. I try to respect you, and I hope you try to respect me. And we literally do everything that we can. My team does everything that we can to make sure we get the answers to you. That's what we do. And sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we are not in agreement. But you know what? That's democracy. That is what is important, to have that healthy back and forth.
Oh my God, this is insane.
To say that I'm holding information or allude to anything else is not unfair. It's really, really unfair. I think people who are watching and have been watching this briefing for this past week could say that we are doing our best in this briefing to provide the information that we have. And I will admit, I will be the first one to admit, sometimes I get it wrong. At least I admit that. At least I admit that. And sometimes I don't have the information. And I will always, always admit that. But I do take offense to what was just happening at the beginning of this briefing.
It's a crazy briefing, man.
We are seeking clarity.
I understand that.
And I think what we're trying to say is when a name is in a public record on a waves form, that it is in the public domain.
Yep.
The president could authorize that his medical records or additional medical information could be made public, because he could waive HIPAA, he could do those things. Yep. And if he chooses to do that, we would like to know more. Part of the reason we we are pressing here is that we are not clear on what has happened, and therefore the American people to whom we report don't have a sense of it. So that's what we're trying to do.
Correct.
And so
But the personal attacks is not okay.
And
So
we want to have a
just want to be
positive.
very, very clear here.
So the question is, one question is, after a debate that drew days and days and days of scrutiny, why hasn't the president had an in-person physical check-in? Maybe blood work, maybe other things,
Yeah.
because when he said he was seen, I certainly thought he had been physically seen, not a phone check-in.
No.
So and that's part of what we're saying about how information comes out in waves, and then we
Totally
may have a
understand.
differend impression. So
And I totally
this
understand.
Because she's not clear.
his presidency
Yeah.
for 10 days, and he could submit to another exam, a full exam, partial exam, whatever. He can waive his right to make things public. None of us are asking about the military members who might be seeing a physician here. None of us. We are only asking about the president's well-being.
Understood.
And so that's why we want to understand. When you see on the public records that a physician with his specialty has come to the White House, gone to the residence clinic, and met with the president's physician, we feel like there is more to be said there, and that's what we're asking.
And I understand that, Kelly O, and you know I respect you wholeheartedly, and I've known you for some time. We want to be also, because we are talking about someone whose name who is out there, and I understand. I get it. It's in the law. I get that. It's in the law. We want to respect that person and give them the measure of privacy that they deserve. The moment I say anything about any specialist, it becomes a thing from this podium. So what I can share, and this is what I can share, he has seen a neurologist 3 times. 3 times, not more than that. Not more than that. He's seen a neurologist 3 times. And that is connected to the physical, the comprehensive physical that we have been able to share with you. So I think that gives you some information about how many times.
Wild.
3 times. And the reason why I am sharing that there are thousands of military personnel, so you also have an understanding, because there are 1,000 military personnel that comes here, and that not just comes here, but under the care of the medical unit, right? They get care from the White House medical unit. There tends to be dermatologists, from dermatologists to neurologists who come through here because the White House medical unit is indeed caring for folks. So I have confirmed 3 times. 3 times. I just cannot get into details or confirm a name of a person. I cannot do that. There's security reasons. We have to give people a measure of
He
privacy.
would waive some of his records and make those.
Well, I don't know how all of that works. I'm not going to pretend I know how that works. And what I will do is certainly will share that information with the powers that be. I just don't want to get into a back and forth on that particular question. Yeah.
Thanks, Corinne. I mean, to Kelly's point, the president today, when he called into Morning Joe, he said that he had released all of his medical records. Should we take that as an indication that he's going to do so?
Well, look, what I can say is that we have shared a comprehensive medical report that is pretty detailed, that is in line with other presidents, certainly not the last one, but the ones, the 2 before the last president. And we have been pretty much in line with what they have done. To be more clear, George W. Bush and also President Obama. So we've been.
The last one did let his donors come to the briefing room to speak to us.
Okay, and we know what that last president said from this briefing room. Okay, so
Call today.
and only did 3 or 4 paragraphs. Very different approach.
During the call today to MSNBC,
Yeah, sure.
was the president reading off of a script?
So I was in the room when the president called into Morning Joe. The president spoke from his heart. The president was very clear. There was no script at all. And he was very detailed. You heard him say actually during the call that he was reading some quotes. He said it. He shared that information. He was reading some quotes from the debate. So he shared that with you. What you heard was a passionate interview. It was about 18 minutes. He talked about and laid out his vision for this country. He talked about how he wants to make sure we move forward. I want to be really careful because he also talked about the campaign, which I can't do from here. But he I think it was incredibly powerful.
Quotes, but not from a script?
Nope, it was not a script.
And Big boy
was in
press
the room.
conference,
It was
how
not
many
a-
questions should we expect that he is going to take?
So look, it is going to be a solo press conference. It is going to be certainly more than a 2+2. I'm not gonna, we're still working it out, so I'm not gonna go into specifics from here.
Work what
But
out?
you could expect a solo press conference from this president at the end of the
Just
NATO
put him on the
summit.
fucking
He's
podium.
looking forward
What is there to
it,
work
and
out?
He will be taking your questions, so that'll be a good thing.
Something different.
Great. Great. I have two questions. One, a
Yes.
follow-up on Dr. Kennard, and that is,
Yeah.
can you explain what the role of Megan Nasworthy is? Does she oversee care for some of those military personnel that you were referencing as a group, or does she oversee care for the president?
I believe, again, want to be careful here. I know who you're speaking of. I don't have her full portfolio in front of me, so I would have my team and I will be happy to get back to you.
Okay. And then on the president's and the White House's engagement with House Democrats, and Democrats more broadly. There was an article a month ago in the Wall Street Journal that the White House universally panned because the on-the-record quotes criticizing the president's age and acuity were largely from Republicans. But I want to ask about the graphs in that story about Democrats. It said that the
From
White
that
House...
same story.
From that same story. It said that the White House kept close tabs on the Journal's interviews with Democratic lawmakers, and after the offices of several Democrats shared with the White House either a recording of an interview or details about what was asked, some of those lawmakers spoke to the Journal a second time and once again emphasized Biden's strength. They quote Congressman Gregory Meeks, a New York Democrat, saying, "They just, said that I should give you a call back." I'm wondering if you could characterize what the White House told Democrats to tell reporters about.
I think the Democrats spoke for themselves. I think, you know how stories work. There's a lot of back and forth. When you all come with a story from us, and we want to make sure you hear from other voices, we make that available to you all. And it is up to the reporter if they're going to reach out or not to that particular person. But we expect and we anticipate and we understand that it doesn't matter who, if it's a congressperson or a governor or any elected official, they're going to speak for themselves. They're going to speak for themselves. And I would say that Representative Greg Meeks has also been very supportive. If you fast forward to where we are today, Representative Meeks has been very supportive of this president, moving forward, and we've heard from many others. CBC more broadly has been very supportive. We heard from the chair, Chairman Hosford, from the CBC, and so that is the type of support that we continue to see.
So there hasn't been outreach by the White House to Democrats who might have misgivings about the president's age or acuity to have them say positive things about the president publicly?
I don't quite understand where you're going with the question. I think I explained it. Sometimes when you all are working on stories, and we want to hear, we were trying to provide supporters from the president, that is not unusual. And it is up to the reporter to reach out or not. And so that is something that we certainly do. That is something that, that is not uncommon. But what I would say more broadly, there are congressional members, as we're talking about what's happening in Congress, as we're talking about the president's outreach, as we're talking about, how we move forward. There are congressional members out there who have been incredibly supportive. We have to remember there are hundreds of House members, and so. There are folks out there.
The president's outreach today and tomorrow ahead of these all conference and all caucus meetings.
So what I can say is that, as you all know, the president has done some outreach. He's spoke about it himself. I can say, as of today, he is engaged with dozens of members, whether in person or on calls. We saw him engaging with congressional members over the weekend. We saw him doing that on several of the trips that he has done over the past 10 days. There have been about 6 states that he's been able to stop over and engage with supporters. So he's been able to do that. And there's a long list. I'm trying to spare you the list here, but there is a long list.
Can't find it.
Chris Coons, Senator John Fetterman, Senator Alex Padilla, Senator Chuck Schumer, Senator Bernie Sanders, Senator Raphael Warnock. It goes on and on. Representative Clyburn, Al Green, Horsford, as I mentioned already. There has been a...
Folks, we're going to continue with the White House press briefing in just one moment. Can we just get a little bit of freaking good news here for just one moment and some clarity? And what is that clarity? It's one of our sponsors, 4 Patriots. At 4 Patriots, the 4th of July is like Christmas. So to celebrate, that they are bringing back one of their best-selling offers for a limited time. When you buy the Powerful Patriot Power Generator 2000X, you'll also get 2 solar panels for free. We all know where everything is going. Some of you were asking about World War III in the live chat earlier. You're seeing with this administration on their leadership in terms of where that could lead us. You need to make sure you and your family are prepared for whatever's possible. And the electricity grid or the electric grid going out is quite frankly possible. So that's right, not one, but you get 200-watt solar panels come with every generator, doubling your power and cutting your charging time in half. So calm down your power independence, or rather claim it. And 2 free solar panels by going to 4patriots.com. Hurry, though, because this double free solar panel deal ends July 8th as of today. So make sure you claim that, folks. Get that today. I want to make sure I get into that ad for you because it ends today. That's a big savings. Let's continue.
A long list of, we believe, incredibly supportive congressional members who have continued.
That have been provided to us from the campaign too, but I'm wondering if the president has spoken directly with Leader Schumer and Minority Leader Jeffries in the last 24 hours. And whether
the president, I hear you. We shared that just last week that the president spoke to the leadership. Obviously on the Democratic side.
Spoken to them since yesterday.
I don't have anything to read out to you as far as what we've shared with you last week, but the president has been in regular touch, and those conversations went very, very well. I think he mentioned, in particular, Leader Jeffries, that went almost for an hour. The president said that himself. He said how much they had a very, very good conversation. The president saw Congresswoman Dean, as I mentioned. He saw both senators of Pennsylvania as well yesterday, traveled across the state and had really two big events with supporters, with Americans who got to hear directly from the president. And I think that's important.
Great.
Again, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Corinne. Were all 3 of President Biden's neurological exams that you've confirmed, were they all conducted at Walter Reed?
Look, I don't have anything to state as to location. What I can say for sure that he has seen a neurologist 3 times as it relates to the exam that he takes every year. And I just don't have a location to speak to.
Well, let me just try a different way. I mean, has any neurologist?
And you also know that the president does go to Walter Reed to do his physical exams.
Well, has a neurologist? I'm not talking about anyone in particular, regardless of the identity, name of that person. Has any neurologist came to the White House to visit President Biden?
What I can tell you during those exams that we have been able to do every year for the past 3 years, and there's a comprehensive exam that we share, a comprehensive report that we share with all of you. He has seen a neurologist.
And that's what I'm trying to clarify. It seems like those were taken at Walter Reed. And so it's an important distinction.
You all know that he does indeed go to Walter Reed as part of his physical exam.
Dude, there's some cover-up going on.
That is something that he does. And
it's a simple question.
I also confirmed that he sees a neurologist every time that he's done these exams. I don't have anything beyond that.
The White House is hiding something.
Why would
Corinne,
I know. Go ahead, April.
Corinne, as everyone's talking about neurological issues, this is different but kind of on that same page. The president has had 2 aneurysms, okay? And there are complications from aneurysms to include impaired short-term memory, inability to concentrate, as well as speech difficulties. Have any neurologists worked with him or just trying to observe him as he is a person who has suffered from 2 aneurysms that could have been fatal?
Look, April, in the comprehensive reporting that we share with all of you on a yearly basis, the neurological exam have been detailed, extremely detailed. It is directly from the doctor. They talk about the specifics of that neurological exam. And so I would refer you to the 6-page comprehensive memo, and that's what.
Wow, she won't answer it.
That is something that we know about, that he had 2 aneurysms. Yeah. And that is all of those complications are part of a neurological exam. Have they tested for that at all? Do you know?
What I can tell you is that the exams have been detailed, they have been extensive, and that's what I can share with you.
Dude.
I would refer you to the document, to the report.
Question.
Sure.
We're just days away from the Republican convention. How do you, as this White House who stands behind this president, how do you work to do an image change or an image change to revamp him, to make him shinier and brighter, if you will?
So I'm not going to speak to the Republican convention. That's something that I'm not going to do, but I am going to. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on, give me a second. Look, in the past 10 days, the president has gone to 6 states. He has. He's gone to North Carolina, New Jersey, New York, Georgia, Pennsylvania. I know that's a Commonwealth, but he's been to 6. And in that time, he has engaged directly with the American public. And you've seen the enthusiasm, you've seen the energy. He's been able to talk to them directly and talk about his goals for the future. Talk about what he's done in the past 3.5 years. They have heard specifically from him on even his health, even the debate. And I think that's important too. So, and you just heard me lay out the next 2 weeks. So the president's going to continue to go out there. He's going to continue to be present in the communities. He's going to continue to hear directly from the American people. And that's the best way to do this. That's the best way to get out there. That's the best way to make sure that you have your finger on the pulse and that the American people get to see you for themselves.
To the Republican convention. What about the Democratic convention?
I can't speak to the Democratic convention either. I can't speak to that. That's for the. No, but you're asking me to speak to 2 things that I can't speak to from here. That is something that the campaign and the convention can speak to. Very, very.
Right at the end of the
April, you may not like my answer, but I'm telling you, the president's going to continue to go out there. I just shared with you at the top a robust plan that the president has to be out there, whether it is in Vegas, whether it's in Texas, and let's not forget the other states that he's visited in the last 10 days. There's a stark difference from what we've been doing and what the other side is doing. Stark difference. And so the president is committed. He's going to continue to do that. He wants to engage directly with the American people. 600 people at the church yesterday, 600 people at the event in Harrisburg. That's a pretty good start. And that's just a continuation. That's actually not a start. That's a continuation. Go ahead, Josh. I know. I'm getting you.
Is it still the administration's policy that physicals are done annually?
Yes, that is just like every other president has done before this president. We're going to continue to uphold that.
So it would be fair to us to assume that as of now, his next expected physical would be next year?
It would be next year. The last one was in February.
Can you clarify for us, forgive me, I might have missed it, or by design, he will or he won't go to the Hill tomorrow?
Say that one more time.
Oh,
I don't have any engagement to share. As you know, NATO is front of mind. That's what he's focused on. You saw that letter that came out from the president. He's going to be focusing on the more than 30 world leaders that are coming here for 75th anniversary of NATO, continuing to show the strength of our alliance. I think it is something that the president's very much looking forward to. And you'll certainly hear from the president on Thursday when he gives his press conference, his big boy press conference, as your colleague Justin has stated many times.
I'll give him your regards.
Yeah.
We shouldn't expect then some sort of big outreach push to member Democratic.
I mean, look, I just shared that he has done dozens of calls, not just calls, but also face-to-face, as he did in Pennsylvania. His team, campaign side, they're going to do their thing. We're going to do our thing on our side. And he, respects tremendously Congress. And so he's in regular contact with them, and that's what you're going to continue to see. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone.
Wow, she didn't take a freaking question from Peter Doocy? Wow. Wow, what a wild press briefing that was. I do want to show you all this from Kayleigh McEnany. It says right here, Karine Jean-Pierre, citing bogus security reasons, says she cannot answer why a Parkinson's specialist was repeatedly meeting with President Biden's doctor. She says she cannot expose the private information of military families. A reporter needs to ask her about the specific reporting from Levin Jonathan at New York Post, who was the 4th person in the January 17th meeting. The reporting below should be fair game and basically excuse the idea of security reasons. So we have here A top Washington, D.C. neurologist had a meeting with President Biden's personal doctor at the White House earlier this year. Visitors' logs, which all the press were talking about, reviewed by the Post show. So you have the doctor, a Parkinson's disease expert at Walter Reed Medical Center, met with Kevin O'Connor and 2 other at the White House Residence Clinic on January 17th, according to the records, which emerge as questions continue to swirl about the 81-year-old president's mental health in the wake of his debate debacle last week with former President Donald Trump. Now, Dr. John E. Atwood, a cardiologist at Walter Reed, was also in the 5 p.m. meeting the White House visitor logs show. Furthermore, she also posted this. The 4th person has not been identified in the logs from that day when Biden was at the White House and hosted House and Senate leaders to press them for more Ukraine funding according to the official schedule. Connard is an authority on Parkinson's who has worked at Walter Reed for nearly 20 years. Since 2020, he has served as the neurology specialist supporting the White House medical unit. What the hell are they covering up here? And what aren't they willing to expose? Here's the issue. Nobody's asking about the name. Nobody wants the name of the 4th person. All the question was surrounding was this Parkinson's disease person or a neurologist, whatever you want to call them. Were they meeting with the president? And the fact that she wasn't being clear in her questions should raise alarm bells for all of us of the massive cover-up. And I think that's why we were ahead of the story early on years ago, where I did it, even though we did another show just the other day, calling it the greatest cover-up in American history. The greatest lie ever told to this country was that Joe Biden was elected president that has dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or some sort of shit going on with his head. And Democrats are going to show up in the millions to vote for this guy again. Remember, Joe Biden's actually leading Donald Trump in some of these swing states, you guys. It is not over. It is far from over. This was a chaotic press briefing, and we saw the press push back in real time today, mostly Ed O'Keefe. And did we not call it early on? Were we not there saying, these are who the guys we want to see in the room? Peter Doocy or Jackie Heinrich. Ed O'Keefe, I said, was a good call. He's been great. I think he was with CBS News. Philip Wegman and Ed. We only got Ed O'Keefe. Peter Doocy never got a question in. Philip Wegman didn't get a question in. Ed didn't get a question in. So, wow. What'd you all think about that one? I can't believe it. No Doocy either. Isn't that unbelievable, folks? We had like 300 people watching this live with us. Cringe, fake stutters, almost as much as Barry. Yep, you're absolutely right. Oh, 600 people. Now, the thing is, there's a press briefing Thursday. So, obviously, we're going to be live every single day this week, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is our normal show. But we're also going to be live Thursday for this big boy press conference, which isn't big boy. Dude, did you hear them? They're like, oh, well, we got to figure out, we got to plan this thing. We got to figure out the nuances of it all. Like, we're not sure, like, how many reporters are going to be there. Like, why are they're acting like it's a big deal, you guys. Let that one sink in. The president doing a presser with the press. That's a huge deal for this administration. That says everything you need to know about this White House and the cover-up that's going on. The fact that they don't even know how many reporters are going to be there. They don't even know if the questions are going to be vetted. They don't know shit. And it's in 3 days. Just put the guy on the podium. Just do a normal press briefing as you've done and say, hey, yeah, you guys all come in, which they probably don't have enough space in there for everybody that wants to be in that press briefing. Just have them stand on the podium. Why is this difficult? Why are we making it bigger than it is? Because his brain isn't working. Is there any Democrats that weaseled their way in here that are voting for Joe? Can you explain to all of us patriots in the live chat? Because we're not all Republicans in here. Some of us are conservative independents. We would love to hear from you. I know there's at least one Democrat in here watching. Can you let us all know in the chat, why is it you're voting for Joe Biden whose head isn't on straight? We're all waiting. We're all sitting here waiting for your logic and your wisdom and your rationale for this because we all don't see it. And you're going to be talking to 300 plus people right now. We would love to hear you say, I'm voting for Joey. This is why. Is it because of the illegal immigration? Is that you love that? Is it because of the economy? Is it because he has his head on straight? I mean, what is this all about here? I guarantee you there's not going to be a single one, which is a remarkable statistic. Well, folks, that was the White House press briefing. A little chaotic. We didn't get Doocy at the end, which is surprising. I thought she was going to save it for him because it gives her an scapegoat to run off the stage because it was the end of the briefing. Phenomenal stuff, though, by other reporters actually pushing back. And she got a little upset with the fact that she actually was mistreated a little bit, even though she goes, I do my best to answer your questions. No, you don't. No, you don't. Everybody in that room was asking for clarity, and you couldn't give it to a single one. So I hope they push back more. Ed O'Keefe's probably not going to get a question in for quite a long time. He's going to be in the penalty box for a bit because he pushed back on her, and rightfully so. So I might do a little bit of a short clip on that one and post that to YouTube and Rumble and Twitter because, damn, Nice job by reporters today. They did show up. They did press a little bit, but we didn't really get any more information about the president's decline and his mental acuity just exponentially fading away. So I will see you next time, folks. If you want to donate to the show, we have a membership. We have a join tab. We are on Rumble. We're trying to grow over there. So if you can head over to Rumble and give us a follow, that would be greatly appreciated. Check out Rumbles. I post articles and opinion pieces over there. I will probably try to upload another one today. I don't know what it will be about, but it will be a good read. And lastly, if you're a reader, check out my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. A lot of you are buying these up. Amazon said it's almost sold out. So head over to Amazon and get yourself a copy. I think there's only a couple left on Amazon. That's what it said in stock. Doesn't mean you still can't get one if it's sold out. You can. But go over there, leave a nice 5-star review. It really does help push us up in the rankings. Do you think we can get in top 100 political books on Amazon? That would be insane for somebody like us here on the Bald Brad Show. So thank you so much for following me, folks. Love you to death. We will be back here tomorrow for our normal show, which is 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, with another episode of the Bald Brad Show. Take care, folks.